How's it going, folks? This is Aaron the Pedantic, and if you're going to be watching the recording of this stream, then this is going to be probably a long one. So buckle in. It's going to be taking a while. There will be. I plan. I don't want to promise it, but I plan to use this stream as me going over as much of basic fantasy stuff as I can in 3 hours, and then later chopping up these things, editing them into portions that are a lot more acceptable to normal people that aren't like me. I'm the kind of person I like to listen to a stream for hours and hours at a time while I'm doing something else. But there are people that just aren't about that. They want the information chopped up and given in a very bite-sized portion. And that's what I plan to do. I plan to play both sides so I always come out on top. Basically, I'm going to do the stream and then I'm going to do the videos cutting the stream up. So that's the plan. This is going to be very long. I am going to talk to chat. So anybody that wants to talk in chat, I'm just going to cut those parts out whenever I do the little videos. So there's a lot to discuss with basic fantasy, and I'm going to just put this out here so you can absolutely discard everything that I'm going to say if you want to, and I will not get my feelings hurt, because I have not actually played this yet. I haven't actually played this yet. My plan is to play this. So why am I going over it then if I haven't actually played it yet? Well, it's because I've played BX, and this is basically BX, but with some changes, some very minor changes. Nothing at all to write home about, nothing to be like, oh my God, that completely transforms the way that the game is supposed to work or anything like that. If you've played BX, you can play, anybody can play this. There are, just like I said, some minor changes. And that's why I feel like it's okay for me to render opinions about this without having actually played it yet. But don't lose heart. I'm not just going to talk about this and never play it and move on. That's not what I'm about. I am going to actually run it because looking at this, I feel like this is the system for me to latch onto. And I'm going to try to demonstrate that through this stream. And so that's what this stream is kind of going to be. It's going to be me trying to demonstrate why this may very well be the OSR retro clone for me. So now I'll go ahead and diffuse any kinds of typical things that you might get. You know, was Aaron compensated in any way for this? No, I don't think Chris Gonerman even knows who I am. And Chris Gonerman has seemed to absolutely make zero attempts at actually trying to make any significant amount of money for this. And I'm gonna show you how. Well, first off, there's this book, right? So this book, you don't have to buy the book. You can just get the PDF for free. You can get every single PDF ever made by Chris Gonerman, you know, the guy who designed this thing, for free off the website. And whenever you get it for print, guess what? It's really inexpensive. I have right here, as far as I know, every single basic fantasy RPG book, as far as, like I said, as far as I know, that's been printed. All of these, and I bought all of these for like less than $60 collectively, you know. So I have the whole system. I have, you know, a book of monsters. I think I have 2 books of monsters. I have a you know, just everything, all kinds of adventures. There's all kinds of stuff in there. $60, guys. $60. I mean, I could outfit an entire table of players with all of them having the full system, and you don't even really need to. There's really no good reason for every player at your table to need this book, because it's just not complex. It's not a difficult system. And there's something else I'm going to show you later that kind of shows why you wouldn't need for players to have the book. It's just not necessary. But if you wanted to, you could. And, you know, you could do that for very inexpensive. You know, it's like, I think it's like $8, you know, to get the print copy. And of course, like I said, it's free to get the PDF. So clearly that is not the avenue that he was trying to take. He was not trying to capitalize off of this. He was trying to make it so that people could get the experience of a basic fantasy role-playing game for very inexpensive and make it as accessible as possible. And there's a lot of really other neat things, a lot of things I greatly respect about what's being done here. Okay. So we have Fiore says, "What's poppin'? Good to see you, man. It's not like we weren't just playing a game together." But I'm sure you're talking to other people. Cal says, "I'll catch you later on." Good to hear, man. We'll see you later. Alex says, "How does it handle demi-humans and dual classing?" Pretty similar to what you see in BX, but some minor changes. We'll definitely get to it. Basically, dual classing, I don't think dual classing actually exists in this as written. There is multi-classing for certain races, but I don't think that this actually has dual classing. It wouldn't be hard to implement, and that's, in fact, it may already be implemented. The only reason I say that I can't declare for sure is because there's a lot of supplementary rules that are provided for free, and I haven't reviewed all of them yet. But I have reviewed some of them, and they mostly look very competent, especially the Glane companion, which I'm going to try and show y'all at some point. Fiore says BFRPG is reliable, cheap, accessible, easy to understand. 100%. Okay. So let's look at the damn book. And I'm going to go through this with like a fine-toothed comb. I'm not going to read every little thing, but I'm going to try and make sure that people get a very strong understanding of how this works and what sets it apart. Well, I guess first thing, let me just show you the website. Okay. Because I think this is one of the things that I have to give him a million times credit. So let me adjust this. There we go. Okay. So the website. So what you can see here, no ads, nothing like that. He's not trying to make any money off this. You can tell. You have the updated version of the game. You can download for free. You can get it in multiple styles. You can get it with bookmarks. You can get the older releases. You can get different translations. They got it French, German, Italian. So I mean, that as far as OSR stuff goes, that's pretty incredible. They got this right here. So this is the core rules. This is the beginner's essentials, and that right here is one of the things I was talking about. If you have players that want to know how the system works, but they don't want to have to read the whole damn thing, then this will show them everything they need to know about playing at first level, which is really, really, really useful. It's only like, I don't know, I think it was like less than 30 pages, maybe even less than that. But it covers everything. It's really easy to read, and it doesn't bog them down in the nitty gritty. You have their first monster manual, basically. You have their second one. They have a third one that's in the still production phase, basically, which you can still download it. It's just not completed and ready for sale. Okay, so I guess I don't have this, and this one's not in print yet. The Basic Fantasy Monster Index. So this is an actual PDF that you can pull up in order to just have a huge index of what all monsters there are and which book they're found in, which is really nice. I hope that they add the stuff from the one that's not released yet. This right here, the Basic Fantasy Equipment Emporium, we're going to look at that. And like, if nothing else, I think people should buy this. Like, for even if they don't plan on ever playing Basic Fantasy, the Equipment Emporium is just an incredibly awesome book because it goes through extensive detail on what mundane equipment is good for, and it just has a million different items. It's really, really, and how much they cost and all that kind of stuff. So adventure modules, admittedly, I haven't read a whole lot of them, but I have read Morgan's Fort. And again, most of the, not most, yeah, I would say most of these you can get in print. And they, they're very inexpensive. And Morgan's Fort is really cool. I mean, it's basically the B series is kind of what it feels like, just from my reading of it. It's very well done. Like you have a very thoroughly detailed keep on the Borderlands, basically. And it's, again, incredibly inexpensive. And in some ways it's better. I'm going to go through like how they do their formatting for their adventures, and I'm just going to say there's a lot that I'm in love with when it comes to their formatting for their adventures. But here we have a whole lot of other ones, and you can see that there's a lot of like clear inspiration from classic modules. The chaotic caves. I wonder what that's supposed to be. Monkey Isle, Saga of the Giants. So you can kind of see there's some serious influence there. So we have some aids for players in Game Master. We have a Game Master screen, supplemental additional classes. So it doesn't have all of the extra trimmings that you often get, from this is really basic. This is really BX, but you can add in the rest of the stuff. And it's again free. And one thing that's kind of nice is that if you don't like this stuff, you're not going to have players saying, "Oh, let me pull this thing out of the book and use that." No, it's not in the book. It's supplementary. So, you I mean, honestly, if you have people playing basic fantasy, they're probably not that demanding anyway. So I guess it's probably not an issue. But you have stuff that is like advanced AD&D rules, basically. Inspired, not entirely translated, but inspired. Very similar in a lot of ways. Of course, barbarians weren't. Yeah, that came later. But in any case, and then you have some things that are a little bit more experimental. And scouts, I believe that came from the Glane Companion. You have the addition of gnomes, half humans, and then you have additional and alternate rules. And this is where you can get kind of deeper. 0 level spells. This is going to trigger a lot of people because 0 level spells, a lot of us have been burnt out by cantrips. So how to factor in alignment, extra types of armor and shields, background skills, combat options, so you can add more complexity to combat, and they're actually really well done. I have to say, they're actually really well done. Equipment packs. If you don't take anything from this system, equipment packs are really, really cool, because one of the things that I often kind of quarrel with is, yes, it's very, very, very easy in BX to roll up a new character, but then you got to shop for items, and this makes that part a little bit faster. It's like, boom, nah, you're a fighter. You can choose this pack or this pack or this pack and go. And you just put that on your character sheet and you just go, which I really like that. Adding new spells, secondary skills, sentient weapons. This is something that is lacking in the actual book. And I will talk about that whenever we get to magic items. But that is one of the things that I have to give them a little bit of heck on, I guess. But considering the price of admission and everything else, I think it's really a minor detail. And plus, there is the whole question of, if you put all this stuff about magic items in the book that the players might be buying, then that might take away some of the magic, pun intended, sadly. And so that kind of takes that away. But since they don't really have like I would like to see something, some more, I don't know, some more magic items that people may have made explicitly for basic fantasy. That would be nice, but it doesn't exist as far as I know. Thief options. So, there's just all kinds of stuff here. All kinds of different character sheet varieties you can choose from. Some of them form fillable, some not. So that's just the stuff that is like officially endorsed. That's not just people just making stuff. We've reviewed it, we've revised it, we've decided that it's good enough, and it's going up there. And then there are some things under showcase that are, we're working on this. It's not quite done yet, but you can go ahead and have a look at it. And so this is where you're going to see your third monster manual. There's all kinds of stuff in here. So compiled info for the core classes, combat reference, expanded XP table. Things get a little bit weird. So, I mean, you do have a lot of translations. They're trying to do a lot for French. There are a lot of role players that are French, apparently. Additional fighting subclasses, armorer subclass. Um, I'm okay. I'm not trying to hate. I'm okay. Blood heritage sorcerer. So yeah, this is where it starts getting into things. I'm like, I'm a little bit less excited about a lot of those. Gaucho. Martial artist, monk. So here we have paladins, quasi classes, recidivist, which is really just somebody that continues to break the law. Someone who continues to do the wrong thing. Specialty priests, that one, I'm not too familiar with how specialty priests were handled in second edition AD&D, so I can't say how close it is, but I do remember I did look at this and I was like, I don't know if I like it, because it's kind of like it's a point buying method of creating your own specialty priest, and there's, I get it, but I feel like it's not really that basic fantasy like at that point. I don't know. Okay. So all this stuff, it seemed like, even though I may not agree with this what it's presenting, it still seems to be quality. I can at least admit that. It seems to be quality, as in it seems fit for purpose for what people are trying to do with it. It's just, do I agree with what it is? Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, they do have some house rules compilations. The Glane Companion is probably my favorite so far, because it basically bridges. It does kind of what uh, old school essentials advanced does, where it bridges a gap in having the basic the BX formula while adding on the options from AD&D without going entirely into the complexity. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. And that's still not even all of it, because this is showcase, and there's still another layer of stuff, and that's the workshop. But I'm not going to bother looking at that right now. Okay, let's look at comments and see what y'all are saying so far. We have a French. Welcome. All right. Not a whole lot of comments right now. So let's look at the dang book. I seem to be lagging. All right. It always does that whenever I transition in and out of sharing screen mode. Okay. So this is 3rd edition. And let's see here. All right. Complaint 1. I can't just click on this and it goes to the pages. It's a stupid complaint, because look what I can do. Oh, I want monsters. Bam. So, I didn't mean to actually do it. But yeah, so it doesn't actually go to it, because it's not, the PDF isn't the same exact numbering as the actual thing, but you understand what I'm getting at. Okay, so we have a table of contents. You have your very basic introduction. Nobody cares about this stuff, how to use dice. It's normally I would chastise people for including these kinds of things, but at the same time, this is a game that I could see being somebody's first role-playing game. And maybe. I think the fact that it's, inexpensive, potentially free. I think that and the fact that it is very middle of the road as far as appeal. It's not a niche game. It's very approachable for absolute normies, I would say. I think it's forgivable that they have that kind of here's what a die is. All that kind of stuff. So I mad respect. They show you how to put a character sheet together on just plain ass ruled paper. Like, that is the Chad move, and I respect it incredibly highly. So one thing you're going to notice, 3d6 for each ability score. So basically down the line, the uh, all this is really pretty standard if you're familiar with BX, basically. Starting money 3d6 times 10 in gold pieces, but ask the game master before rolling. So, and there's a lot of this kind of stuff that's like, it's up to the game master. It's up to the game master. It's up to the game master. Continuously, it reminds you the game master is king and you are but a subject in his royal court. So, that to me is something I greatly appreciate, because some people these days, they really try to, be like, the game master is just a player, blah 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 blah. And this says no, no. It's the game master puts too much effort into this for them to be just a player. Okay, so you have the exact same kind of bonuses and penalties that you get with basic expert, which, the same spread. 9 to 12 is 0, 13 to 15 is +1, et cetera, et cetera. So -3 to +3. You have the prime requisites, and you have experience bonuses based on that, depending on what class you choose. And there's another bonus that you get for being human. So that's one of the things that is kind of a little different, is it gives you a little bit of extra love for being human, because, you don't have quite the same. Well, you do have some other incentives still, but well, actually, no, I guess you don't. Anyway, that's beside the point. Okay, you have the whole, what do these things do? And for the most part, I want to say these are going to be exactly what you expect. I don't think there's anything here that's going to surprise you if you're used to basic expert. Yeah. Okay. Same thing with hit points and hit die. This just kind of explains the fact that, you have to always get at least 1 point every time you level up. You have to start with at least 1, and at some point you're going to stop getting new hit die. So there is, again, game masters may even allow player characters to learn exotic languages, such as Dragon. So again, it's just putting everything into the GM's hands as far as how all that kind of stuff happens. So let's see. So that's languages. Okay, so now we're already at character races, and we're looking at the demi-humans. So what does it do with these beautiful, beautiful creatures that some people despise utterly? Rather than giving them a completely different saving throw chart, as we have, because they, remember, in basic expert, they are their own class in and of themselves. They're not races, they're race classes. Rather than doing that, they get these special they get their restrictions. So as you can see with the dwarf, they can become clerics, fighters, or thieves. So they can't multi-class. They are required to have a minimum constitution of 9. They cannot have a charisma higher than 17. This one, they may not employ large weapons more than 4 feet in length, specifically two-handed swords, polearms, and longbows. So that kind of handles one of the things that I've heard a lot of people complain about with certain retro clones, where they would say a dwarf cannot handle a battle axe because it's large, and they just completely outlaw large weaponry. This doesn't have that particular issue. You can have your battle axe wielding dwarf. You can still do it, but two-handed sword, it's a little bit weird. So I do actually kind of like that distinction there. Even though saying more than 4 feet in length is kind of, still, it works. So you do have dark vision. Well, what is dark vision defined as? You don't have infravision, you have dark vision. Dark vision is really, really plainly described, which we'll probably hit it again later. But basically, dark vision, you see in black and white, you can't see color. And if there's anything more than moonlight, it says, then it just doesn't work for you. So you can see in the dark, even complete and utter pitch black, with it up to 60 feet, depending. So in this case, 60 feet for dwarves. But, you can't make out color. And if there is too much light, then you can't use it. So then, basically the way I would interpret that is that if you have a torch lit or something like that, which you should, if you have any humans in the party whatsoever. And honestly, you might want to anyway, at least have like a hooded lantern that you can close. That way you can, open it up whenever you want to be able to get more detail, then close it again if you hear a noise and you want to try and sneak up on the enemy, that kind of thing. But the way I would interpret that is if there is anybody using any torchlight, then your dark vision is basically kind of not working very well. Because to me, your eyes, it's kind of like when your eyes adjust to the darkness and it takes a little while, right? Um, then, if it gets real bright all of a sudden, then, your eyes have to adjust again. I kind of see that as, well, their eyes are adjusting in a similar fashion. So if somebody has a torch lit, nearby, they're not going to be able to be adjusted to that amount of light and still be able to look into what is the darkness beyond. And, basically they can't have their cake and eat it too. So what that means is that you're really not going to be using, like, dark vision is not going to come up that much unless you have a party of nothing but people using dark vision and not using torches, or you have somebody who's just going off on their own for a minute to scout ahead, which is, I think, as God intended. I'm kidding, but anyway, so that's how dark vision works. So able to detect slanting passages, traps, shifting walls, and new construction on a roll of 1 to 2 on a 1d6. A search must be performed before this roll may be made. So that is straight up BX style. You're not using a percentile. You're not using a D20. It's based on a D6. Now, dwarves save at +4 versus death ray or poison, magic wands, paralysis or petrify, and spells, and at +3 first dragon breath. So here's the thing about this. This is basically them doing what you did in BX, sort of. So people that are familiar with BX will know that the dwarf is one of those races that starts with incredibly solid saving throws at first level, to the point where they are far more likely of surviving poison traps and things like that than your humans. To me, that's what this is doing. Love it or hate it. To me, it's faithful to BX in that capacity. But because of that, you may want to consider level limits, maybe. And I can't now that I'm thinking about it, I can't remember if level limits are factored in explicitly or if that's something that you could impose yourself. We'll have to see as we go along. Okay, elves. So elves may become clerics, fighters, magic users, or thieves. They are also allowed to combine the classes of fighter and magic user, and of magic user and thief. So you can't be fighter, magic user, thief, but you can be fighter, magic user, or magic user, thief as an elf. They are required to have minimum intelligence of 9, constitution no higher than 17. Never roll larger than a 6-sided die for hit points. So that's one thing that is a balancing mechanism. Even if you're a fighter as an elf, you're never going to be quite as good at being a fighter as a human. And it's beautiful. I do love that. But it kind of encourages people to multi-class as an elf. They will still have to get enough experience points for both classes to satisfy the leveling up. So for instance, the fighter, I want to say it's 2,000 XP, and then another 1,250 for thief. So if you're going fighter thief, then yeah, you need 3,250 XP to level up to level 2. Whereas if you were to just be a thief, you only needed 1,250. So yeah, it's going to take you longer to level up. But that's the trade-off there. Basically, you want to level up faster, be a single class. But if you want to get more bang for your buck as an elf, be a multi-class, because you're not going to get a full D8 hit die anyway. So just grab the D6 for fighter, magic user and call it a day. Which basically means that most elves are going to kind of feel like elves. And I like that. We have class restrictions. We have niche protection. All kinds of cool stuff. So dark vision of 60-foot range, able to find secret doors more often than normal. So 1 to 2 on a d6 rather than the usual 1 on a d6. They have basically a passive chance of being able to determine on a 1 in 6 just with a cursory look. So the distinction there would be like they're saying, oh, well, what's on this wall? And then the DM would basically behind the scenes do this d6 roll. And if it happens to turn up a 1, then they're like, oh, you notice this. Whereas otherwise they would have to actually spend, a turn, 10 minutes to get that 2 in 6 chance. So there you go. Let's see. Less likely to be surprised in combat, reducing chance of surprise by 1 in 1d6. So there is that as well. Elves save at +1 versus paralysis or petrify, and +2 versus magic wands and spells. So that's how you get that there. That's what demi-humans do. As you can probably guess what's going to happen, humans don't get any of that stuff, but they get something else that is beautiful. Let me check the comment section just to make sure I'm not ignoring everybody. There we go. We have comments. Dang, it blew up. Chris says, I ran this for 2 years. It's not fancy, but it does what I want without doing a lot of what I don't is key. Yes, absolutely. Here, let's put some kind of porn link. There we go. I'm assuming that's what it is. Basic Fantasy, Sebastian says, Basic Fantasy was great to introduce my daughter to D&D, but we soon went over to Beck Me, then AD&D first. That's an interesting progression. If I'm going to run a BX game, I use Basic Fantasy over Labyrinth Lord or Old School Essentials. Yeah, everybody has their own flavor that they prefer. I'm really feeling like Basic Fantasy is going to be the one that wins it over for me. If I'm not going to use this beautiful bastard, then I'm probably going to use Basic Fantasy, because then I can just be like, everybody just download that free PDF, which, I mean, yeah, you can do that with Labyrinth Lord. And not really Old School Essentials. You can get a very simplified PDF. They don't have all the rules. They give you basic rules for Old School Essentials for free. You actually have to pay for the full thing if you want the PDF for that. But there is the added benefit with Basic Fantasy that you have ascending armor class, and that's a deficit for some people that are used to the old ways. But the fact that it does have ascending armor class means that you could potentially convince some newer school players to give it a try and see if they like it. Not saying you couldn't get, because I did show in a previous video that it's not hard to teach a new school person or somebody that's not even good at math to do THAC0. So K5K says, line paper for character sheets goes all the way back. Moldvay Basic has a similar image of one for Borg the Fighter. That is glorious. Maybe that's what Chris was trying to evoke with it. Oh God, Dark Knight is in here shilling for FMAG. For those who don't know, it's a white box fantasy medieval adventure game. Saying it's better than BFRPG. I'm gonna have to say no, because I mean it serves a different purpose. Let's see. People talking about each other's mothers. Just wholesome chat. Okay. Malaki says, it won't be for a bit. The last Friday of the month, I'm joining a new game with some coworkers. It's 5th edition, but the DM said he wants to go 3d6 in a range for stats. Woof. Okay. That is going to be a tough game. Because 5th edition is not really made with the idea that that's the kind of thing you're going to be doing. It's doable. It's very doable. But if you think about it, without getting the 46 drop the lowest, you're going to get a much lower average. You're going to get a lot of poor stats, things that are going to not really have very strong modifiers. And a lot of the core 5e math is assuming that you're going to have at least a +2 on either your strength or your dexterity or your spell casting stat, which means that, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, especially whenever you come up against goblins. For those who don't know, goblins in 5th edition, they have like an AC of 15. So in order to hit them, you kind of need you need a pretty good modifier, decent. You need at least, because you get a +2 from proficiency. I know I'm going into this. +2 from proficiency, and then maybe a +3 from whatever your best stat is, hopefully. And then you have a 50% chance of hitting. So it might be 55. I think it's 55. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is expect them to be upset. But if they're not upset, then I respect them greatly. John says basic fantasy where you can get the rules, a great equipment book, and a monster manual for $20. Yes, 100%. That's what I'm going to be. That's why I'm going to be shilling this bad boy hardcore. Okay, so we looked at elves, we looked at dwarves, halflings. By the way, the art is like, I love the art because it's so low key, and it's still evocative and kind of charming in a way. It's black and white. I like black and white art. So halflings may become clerics, fighters, or thieves. So again, we have niche protection. We have the idea that halflings are just not quite gonna cut it as magic users, and I respect that. Minimum dexterity of 9, strength no higher than 17. They never get more than a d6 for hit points, so they're really kind of encouraged not to be fighters in some way, because really they're just not going to get as much out of it as other people would, especially because they can't use large weapons and must wield medium weapons with both hands. So no matter how you slice it, they're really meant to be thieves and maybe clerics. That's just kind of how it is. So what do they get? +1 attack bonus when using ranged weapons, all sorts of ranged weapons, not just slings or whatever, because I've seen that in some of them. When attacked by melee by creatures larger than man size, they get a +2 bonus to their armor class. I'm trying to remember what that. Somebody's going to chastise me for having asked the question, but that is definitely a classic bonus that I've seen employed. Quick-witted, thus adding +1 to initiative die rolls. There is individual initiative in this, which some people may not like, but it is what it is. Outdoors in their preferred forest terrain, they're able to hide very effectively. So as long as they remain still, there is a 10% chance they'll be detected. Only a 10% chance that they will be detected. So they can hide in the great outdoors very easily. Even indoors, in dungeons or in non-preferred terrain, they're able to hide such that there is only a 30% chance of detection. So they're just really good at hiding. Perfect thief. Note that a halfling thief will roll only once using either the thief ability or the halfling ability, whichever is better. It's like it read my mind, and it's like, actually, Aaron, you're wrong. So maybe it will benefit the clerics more, the cleric halflings. They'll be able to sneak around and not get caught. Saving throws, again, they're kind of like the dwarves in that they've always gotten better saving throws than your humans. +4 versus death ray or poison, magic wands, paralysis or petrify, and spells, and +3 versus dragon breath. Again, though they classically have level restrictions, they're usually not able to level up very high. And for the life of me, I can't remember if that's employed here. So you may want to think about it. All right, we got humans. This is the big thing. Humans can do anything. They can be anyone. It doesn't say anything about combination classes. In fact, it says that only elves can do it. So there's your answer there. They do get a bonus of 10% to all experience points earned. Isn't that beautiful? No saving throw bonuses, but they level up faster. It's beautiful, beautiful. And because they're single classed, unlike the elves, they're probably going to level considerably faster than them. So there you go. So combination classes, they use the best attack bonus and best saving throw values to their original 2 classes, but must gain experience equal to the combined requirements of both base classes to advance in levels. So fighter magic user can both fight and use magic spells. Further, they are allowed to cast magic spells while wearing armor. So there you go there. If you want to put in some kind of house rule that says that there's a possibility that they fail spell casting, you can do that while they're wearing armor, but you don't have to. It's just a thought. These characters roll 6-sided die for hit points. So again, like I was saying before, Really, the only reason to play an elf fighter is if you just want to level up faster, and then otherwise you may as well just be a fighter magic user. And magic user thief. Members of this combination class may cast spells while wearing leather armor and may use any weapon. These characters roll 4-sided die for hit points. So this one it kind of averages you out. This one it kind of takes you down, because normally, actually no, it doesn't take you down. It would be the same both ways. So disregard that. I was playing Lion and Dragon recently, and thieves are a D6 there. I kind of like thieves being a D6, honestly. Okay, so now we're at character classes. So you have the XP charts, which are pretty classic. All of this is pretty much just straight up BX. I'm sure somebody will point out something that I missed that's going to say, actually, no, or whatever. But you got your D6 hit die. You don't have any spells at level 1. That is something that you do get in AD&D. And I believe that there are supplementary materials, if you like that kind of thing, where they add that in. There's a lot of really cool things that the supplementary materials use if you want to employ them. But as it stands, a first level cleric is going to be able to do turn undead, and they're going to be able to whack things with clubs and maces and whatnot, and they're going to be able to wear heavy armor. That's what they get. Let's see. So just like in BX, you have the experience bonus. Actually, it doesn't say that there, but it does say it somewhere. I'm pretty sure it says that somewhere. Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe they don't have the XP bonus for having the high prime requisite. Someone will have to correct me, perhaps, or I'll correct myself later. Okay. So they can start casting spells at second level. They have the ability to turn undead, and we'll look at that later. Any armor, but may only use blunt weapons. All right, fighter. So this is something that may be a hard pill to swallow. I think this perfectly matches what BX does, because BX didn't have the you can hit as many creatures as many one-hit die or less creatures as your level, or you can that whole thing. I don't think that they had that in BX. If I remember correctly, that was something that was dropped off after Basic Holmes edition. You don't have to quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case. So really, what do fighters get that sets them apart from everybody else? Well, you also don't have the other thing that they typically get, and this is perhaps where I'm going to throw a little bit of shade, in that in BX, your fighters are going to get a barony once they hit, I think it's 9th level, and they're going to have followers and stuff like that automatically. And this doesn't provide that. Basically, they get to use any armor, any weapon, and there you go. They're going to get better attack bonuses. So love it or hate it, that's what it is. Magic user is D4 hit die. What is different here? So no armor of any sort. Only weapons they become proficient with are the dagger and the walking staff or cudgel. So no darts. People that love AD&D, no darts. You can't be a professional dart throwing magic user. So sad. So really, it's be prepared to throw daggers from behind the lines. They all start with read magic and one other spell at first level. And so not a whole lot of spells. I kind of like the AD&D method of spells at first level, which that is basically you get an offensive spell, a defensive spell, read magic, and then like one other randomly determined one, I think, or determined by the DM, basically. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Anyway, I like that. I think that they should have a little bit more variety starting off, because It's a hard knock life being a first level magic user. That 1d4 hit points, especially if you have a shitty con. Yeah. It's going to be tough. Okay. Thief. So thieves are also a d4 hit die. And they are able to use any weapon, but may not use metal armor as it interferes with stealthy activities, nor may they use shields of any sort. Leather armor is acceptable, however. So there you go. This is something that I would personally rule, and that is that if you want to if you're a thief and you want to wear heavy armor, sure, you can, but like your thief skills aren't going to work. You're just not going to be able to pull it off. Sorry. Or like at the very least, there's going to be a massive penalty to the point where it's almost pointless. That just might be me. I don't know about y'all. Because to me, it's kind of silly, the idea that you can just be like, nah, you literally can't put that armor on, buddy. You literally can't do it. I've seen some really cool rulings from other systems, like I hate to shill it again, but Lion and Dragon, where fighters just naturally can get better armor class bonuses out of heavier armor than everybody else. And I like that. It's worth considering for your own potential house rules. But I always felt like it was weird to be like, yeah, that splint mail, you just can't make heads or tails on how that shit works. Not even if somebody shows you how. Okay. There is a note here, which I appreciate. Sometimes this is left out. And that's one thing that the system does really well, I think, is explain things to you in a very direct way. Basically saying that you don't just look at the thief chart and then that's the percentage every time. You do apply situational modifiers. So if you have a very slick wall, then adjust the percentage chance accordingly. So there you go. That's something that I do appreciate. And you also have the way that you handle these skills laid out in pretty solid detail. Again, it's very much like how it's handled in BX. For instance, you do an open locks check. It may only be tried once per lock. If you fail, you can't try again until you level up. It's very, very, very tough. Yes, it is very tough. And some people will house rule it. They'll say, well, I'll give you 3 tries, or you can try as much as you want, but every time that you fail, it's harder and harder to complete it, or something like that. Or some will just be like, nah, man, you'll get it eventually if you keep trying it. I like this method because it's just like, nope, it just so happens this thing is out of your it's out of your depth. You just can't do it. Sorry. You're going to have to come back to it once you level up. I kind of like it. Because guess what? That's what axes are for. That's what crowbars are for. That's whenever you make a lot of noise. Open locks is your quiet version. And you don't always get the quiet version, no matter how much time you want to take on it. So remove traps is rolled twice, first to detect and the second time to disarm. GM will make these rolls as the player won't know for sure if the character is successful or not until someone actually tests the trapped or suspected area. It's beautiful, guys. It's beautiful. This is, some people will be all like, oh, it's not fair. As a player, I want to roll dice or whatever. Yes, but you need to be able to actually sweat, wondering if you actually discovered that if you actually are correct that there are no traps, or if you just think there are no traps. I'm not going to go through intense detail on all of these. I think that would bore the ever-loving shit out of most of you. Let's look at comments. Pat says, hi, how's it going, Pat? Good to see you. Been trying to decide on something like this or the Old School Essentials book. Well, Norns, give me just a second. I can't believe I forgot this. All right. Norns, the question I want to ask you is, do you want something pretty, or do you want something that your players are going to be able to get a hold of? That is the question. That is, to me, the defining characteristic of whether you should get old school essentials or you should get basic fantasy, because old school essentials sells out a lot. It's going to be in limited supply because it's kind of a more boutique, pretty product. It is higher quality in appearance, higher quality in construction, but it's also a lot higher cost. And to me, I'm glad that I own old school essentials, especially because there are a few things in there that I can make use of that basic fantasy doesn't do quite as well. But as far as like whether or not I plan on actually running old school essentials, I'd rather do basic fantasy at this point, I think. That is just me, though. Dark Knight says, I think halflings should get +1 to hit with all ranged weapons, but they also deal a +1 with slings. Double dip that shit, huh? I do like the idea of halflings just being the awesome slings people, just because David and Goliath. I mean, come on. Malaki says BFRPG seems like a combination of OD&D and BX. I feel like it's. I feel like the supplementary material, yes. If you factor in all that stuff, I think yes. There are certain aspects that are. There are certain aspects that are. In fact, now that we bring that up, because as far as I'm concerned, BX is just a defensive bonus. Oh yeah. No, I mean this is halflings get the same. Well, what I was trying to check was do a lot of these bonuses, do they come from BX or do they come from basic Holmes edition or whatever? And it looks like the answer is that a lot of this stuff is just straight out of BX. So but that's a lot truer of a statement than I've seen some people say that basic fantasy is 3rd edition plus BX, and that's a lie. The only thing that this gets from 3rd edition is ascending armor class, and that's really pretty minor. Romaine says it seems clerics have 6 spell levels in this, 5 in BX. Yes, and there's actually you can actually get a different table that includes 7th level spells for clerics if you go up there. The wife being inappropriate. K5K says AD&D first edition was the first edition to give fighters the benefit of multiple attacks against less than 1 hit die creatures. I don't think that's true. Well, I feel like that was in basic Holmes, but I don't know. Maybe you're right. Multiply the AC bonus by 5 and subtract that from the thief skill percentage. That's one way to handle it. So that's when we were talking before about how you may allow thieves to wear heavy armor and then penalize their thief skills. Because keep this in mind, people might be concerned about the fact that, well, then you're letting the thief encroach on the fighter's territory. Not really. The thief is getting half the hit die. They are getting a worse THAC0 improvement, or in this case, basic attack bonus. So are they really encroaching on that? I don't think so. I think it's okay. And especially because guess what? Putting on and taking off armor takes time, especially heavy armor. So, the idea that they're just going to keep on so I'm going to stop. Oh, I need to do a thief skill. Let me put on some armor. Well, guess what? That's time for a wandering monster check. So I don't really see it as being something that's encroaching on fighters potentially. Plus, thieves need everything that they can get, but people don't like to play thieves. A lot of people do not like to play thieves because even though they do level up quickly and they are awesome in my perspective, they're also very fragile. Thieves can backstab to subdue. That's different from BX and AD&D first edition. Only fighters can strike to subdue in those. Yeah, that might be true. I do like that rule. I don't care about my players owning the books. I like BX better, and we'll keep using the OS Old School Essentials books. Yeah, that's a solid point. I think my thing is I like for players to um, be incentivized to run their own games, and I feel like that's more likely to happen whenever they're familiar with the system, and then they can just get the book for themselves. Plus, I know a lot of players that just want to own the books. They actually will get mad if they have a hard time getting a hold of the books. So that's just my experience. Okay. I did take it off the screen. Here we go. All right. Thief abilities covered. Okay, so now I already mentioned that, and so basically the conversion method here, I believe this is standard BX conversion as far as the currency goes. So it's not the same as AD&D. So keep that in mind if you're going to be doing AD&D stuff. That it may get a little bit weird because shit, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I think it's was it 20 silver to 1 gold? I think it is. So that means that your silver actually worth less in AD&D. Or actually, it means your gold is worth more. I think that's how that works. Yeah. But anyway, so just keep that in mind if you're using any material from there. But the equipment thing here, you have weights handled well, prices seem fair. I like that we have this. We have these asterisks here to show that 10 of these items is equal to, I think it's 1 pound. Yeah, 10 of the asterisk items equal 1 pound. We have the double asterisk on like paper and quill, which to me just means it's absolutely negligible. Like don't even worry about it. Or it could be that like 20 of them equal, but I to me it's like at that point I'm just not worried about it. It's because if we're using, actually, does this use coin weight? I guess we'll find out. Okay. Weapons, I do appreciate that we have silvered weapons. We have prices included for that rather than like a general guideline on how much more they should cost. So I do like that. We have weapon sizes. Okay. And again, we have a reiteration about how weapon size interacts with races and things like that. You have missile weapon ranges, so you get a bonus if you are at short range. You get a penalty if you're at long range. It's pretty standard. It does use substitute yards for feet in the wilderness, which I can't remember if that's a BX thing. I do know that that's an AD&D thing. But, then again, AD&D is in inches. Okay. So, armor and shields. So, no armor is AC 11. And then it just goes up from there. We don't have a whole bunch of armors here yet. But like I said, there is a very, very free or inexpensive, depending on if you want print or not, supplement that includes more. Plate mail is quite expensive. Actually, I think that may be a fix that I always wanted for BX, was that plate mail was really cheap. Yeah, plate mail was only 60 gold pieces in BX, and in Basic Fantasy it's 300. So you gotta work for it. The conversion is also a little different. It's a little bit different. It looks like you get 1 extra point of armor class, kind of. Old School Essentials has the the ascending armor class conversions. So you can just look in brackets if you want to use ascending armor class. So it's neat that you can do that with old school essentials. But as you can see, the numbers are one lower on all of those. So Beasts of Burden. Okay, so this is nice. This is just a section going over what does equipment mean? What do all these things mean? What do they do? So that way, whenever the players are doing something that doesn't quite make sense and you can't quite figure out how they think that it works like this, you can point them to these things, or you can refer to them if you weren't sure. How long do candles last? And how much area, do they shine? All that kind of stuff. What is a whetstone? All right, you have vehicles, costs, size, how many crew do you need? How far can they travel per day? Siege engines. So you have siege engines here, but I don't think that there's a whole lot of love on how to how to handle siege combat or anything like that. It just seems more like, well, if there's an arbalest sitting around, you can use it in a fight, kind of thing. Unless I've misread it. So there are some gaps like that, but some people like stuff like that, and I don't think that. I do think that this as it stands, this singular package of basic fantasy role playing game is in a lot of ways a very direct dungeon delving game. And that a lot of the extra components that you might build onto it, domain play, for instance, those are things that are not really here. So this really lends itself in the singular package is something that is um, a dungeon delving game, which sounds obvious. But if you want to include those other things, then you're probably going to have to look elsewhere. That's where I might want to pull some stuff from here, or well, yeah, from BX, honestly, or from AD&D, honestly. Everybody should own the AD&D first edition DMG, and if you combine those things by these powers combined, you can have a fantastic game. Absolutely. All right, let's check comments, and we'll get the spells. You can't argue with free PDFs and at cost books. Yes, absolutely. So Malaki verifies 1 GP equals 20 SP in first edition. Yeah, so your gold pieces are actually worth more. I'm pretty sure. I'm not an economist, but let's see. Milan made a long blog post about 7 Voyages of Xylarthan. Have you read it or looked at the books? I was intrigued. No, he got me intrigued in it too, but I haven't looked at it yet. And Romaine says adjusting the price of plate mail is certainly one of my home brews, if you can call it that. Yeah, plate mail is criminally inexpensive. But I mean, I guess you could argue it's not field plate, so but yeah, like they can get it very, very, very quickly in with BX rules, especially with rolling 3d6 times 10 gold pieces. They can always opt to just forego all kinds of gear and just be like, I'm getting plate. Plate plus shield. I'm staying alive, bitches. All right. So spells, cleric spells. So you have all of these spells very, very kindly laid out to you. And as you can see, you do have 6 level spells. Since I've got it here, I may as well compare, even though this is going to be absolutely annoying for some people, I'm sure. How does the spell list compare? All right, cleric spell list. Okay. Wow, these are almost verbatim. Exact same order. Let's see. So bless would be second level first. Yep, bless, charm. Oh, okay, here we go. Charm animal. They get charm animal in this, but in old school essentials, find traps. They don't get charm animal. Okay, so it's starting to deviate already. They only get 6 spells at 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and then no more. So you get more spells. More spells, everybody. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. The best that you can do in old school essentials is you can get raised dead at 5th level. Well, 5th level spell, which is still accurate. It's just that 6th level spells exist, and they're going to offer some of the stuff that you can normally get from AD&D. So there you go. That seems to be the big difference. Let's look at magic user spells. Okay, magic user spells. Magic user spell list. First level looks to be about the same. Okay. Looks like it stops at 6th level. Okay. Incarnate, stone to flesh, flesh to stone, anti-magic. Yeah. You get 2 more spells in old school essentials, but I'm trying to figure out what they are. Okay, anti-magic. Yeah, got that. Control weather. Ah, no control weather. Okay. So old school essentials, you get control weather. Basic fantasy, you don't. There's one more. Got that. Invisible stalker. Got that. Move earth. Move earth. Okay. It seems to be like the druid themed spells. They seem to be removed in or moved around. Yeah. No, they seem to be removed, I think. Because wouldn't it before the cleric couldn't charm animal in this? No, it's the other way around. Okay. That's just a curiosity. You actually have more spells for magic users in old school essentials. So there you go. I'm not biased. Okay. It does note here, rules for new spells are found in the Game Master section on page 151. Okay, and then we have all spells in alphabetical order. So I'm gonna just lay out my biases. I like spells by spell level, and then alphabetical order after that. I don't know why. It literally doesn't make a difference. This would be better if it had page numbers on it. That would be nice. So, gripe. There's your gripe. But the spells are pretty much like you expect. They're gonna work like they do in BX for the most part. Let's see if we're correct about that. Detect evil. Duration 6 turns. Duration 1 round per level. That is different. Range 60 feet. Range 120 feet. Okay. What else we got? Check magic. 2 turns. 2 turns. Same. 60 feet. 60 feet. You get a little bit more detail on the basic fantasy one. Okay. I know that this is not terribly interesting, and I apologize, but actually, I don't apologize. That's what the point of this stream is. This stream is really just to chill with y'all while I go over this, and then I'm going to, tear this thing up later and make it more watchable. But, since I had them both right here, I figured I might as well try and compare them. Bless. What about bless? Bless. All right, 50-foot radius, 20-foot square area. Range 90 feet, range 60 feet. 1 round per level, 6 turns. So it looks like there was some attempt in basic fantasy to reduce durations, is what it looks like. To make the durations. Was I reading that? I was reading the wrong one. It's 1 minute per level. Okay, so it's not fixed in basic fantasy. $50-foot radius, bonus on 1+1 on the attack rolls and damage rolls and morale. Ah, that is different. And instead of Bane, it's called Blight. Old school essentials. Okay. Well, that's really enough of that, I guess. I was just kind of curious. I might do like a more in-depth thing there, but I want to make sure that I'm done with this by the time the inappropriate characters stream starts at 7:30. So that means that I can't dilly-dally too much. All right. So that in mind, let's go past all of these beautiful spells. Made it. Okay. So, carrying capacity. So what I do love about this is that this will consider, this is something that's not in BX, as far as I know. So asterisk, danger quotes, I guess, not danger quotes, it doesn't make sense. But what I love here is that your strength is considered and your race is considered in how much you can carry. So this is in pounds, this isn't in coin weight, this is in pounds. So if you have stuff that's in coin weight, then just divide it by 10. Yeah, I think just divide it by 10 and you're good. Then you have it in pounds. So you can use that to determine what your carrying capacity is. Wait a minute. Yeah. Because that's I don't think that it considers that at all in old school essentials. Let me double check. Basic encumbrance. Yeah, it doesn't. There's a basic and detailed encumbrance in old school essentials. It's just how heavy your armor is, and that's all it cares about. And if you're carrying treasure or if you're not carrying treasure. Or detailed encumbrance, which is all just up to blank X amount of coins, and then this is how much it slows you down. So there you go. So basic fantasy wins in carrying capacity for me. Okay, movement and encumbrance. So then you can further break this down. If you're lightly loaded, then this is your movement. If you're heavily loaded, then this is your movement using these kinds of armors. Okay. Mapping. Absolute accuracy is not possible. Main thing is to ensure that the party can find its way back out of the dungeon. So it doesn't say anything about mapping slowing down the speed of movement, which I guess is kind of a sad. Normal torches normal torches burn for 1d4 plus 4 turns while a flask of. So I don't like this variable duration for this. I can't remember if that's how it's supposed to be otherwise, but I'm not a fan. I prefer for it to be just straightforward. It's always this long, because I don't feel like there's a whole lot of point in me having to check or them having to check. And if we're not going to do it, then what's the point? What I mean by having to check, I mean having to see, is it going to be a 5 turn torch, or is it going to be an 8 turn torch? And, why bother whenever I'd be more interested in, well, is this particularly windy? Did you get surprised and you dropped the torch? That kind of thing. So, again, very few things for me to nitpick about. Dark vision, I already explained, but black and white only, but otherwise like normal sight, does not grant want the ability to see in magical darkness. Dark vision is totally ineffective in any light greater than moonlight. So again, I kind of laid my opinion that if you have any kind of light source near somebody that's brighter than moonlight, then basically their dark vision is not going to work. So basically means that you're typically not going to have dark vision be a thing unless somebody is going off ahead of the party. Doors. So we have the 1d6 rolling for stuck doors. Add your strength bonus. And I like this very simple method of handling this for locked doors and metal bars, because I don't think that this is handled in BX. I think that that's something that you just kind of have to come up with your own way of doing it. And, basically having it so that a character with, decent strength is going to have a 10% chance of, busting open some metal bars is pretty decent. I think that's pretty decent. Okay, listening at doors. So people normally get a 1 in 6 chance unless they're thieves, and then they get a listen ability. Oh, well, yeah, we knew that. Traps. Normal characters have a chance equal to a roll of 1 on 1d6 to detect a trap if a search for one is made. So that kind of defeats the whole, well, you're not a thief, so you can't find a trap. Anybody can find a trap, but thieves are better. So the thief ability supersedes this roll, as does the stonework trap finding ability for dwarves. Again, this is just really, really good explanation for how this stuff works, and it's greatly appreciated. Because this does go into greater detail than this one does. This one really is all about brevity. It's very, very, very brief, and allows you to fill in gaps. And it's brief, but it's also very direct. This little bit more long-winded, but more useful, I think, in clarifying things, which I appreciate. This handles the whole process of searching for secret doors and things like that. Multiple characters. This is just something I wanted to highlight. Multiple characters searching for secret doors ensures that any such will eventually be found. However, if the first and second searchers fail, the next searcher must take 2 turns to search, and all subsequent searches of the same area require an hour. So that's kind of like that thing I was talking about before with thieves. Being able to continuously try the same lock in some people's home rules, but it gets harder and harder and harder. This is kind of the same principle. It's just that you're going to be more and more likely to get attacked by wandering monsters. I do like, again, clarification. Finding a secret door does not grant understanding of how it works. May require additional rolls or other actions to be taken before the door can be opened. Okay, dungeon survival, food and water. So if you don't get enough to eat, you're eventually going to start losing hit points. You won't be able to regenerate your health naturally. Water will make you lose a lot more hit points. We'll see what chat's doing. Torches are 1 hour. Yeah. I would go with torches or 1 hour. I just don't see a whole lot of point in messing with a variable thing whenever torches are just so you're using them all the time. Thank you for being a bro, helping me find that, or clarifying. Okay, so we do have waterborne travel. We have wilderness movement rates. So we have our conversion into miles per day. So we have feet per round, miles per day. Overland travel, and adjust it based on how difficult the terrain is. If you're on a paved road, you actually travel faster. That's neato. Forced march rules. Yeah, I've never done waterborne travel in any kind of meaningful way, so I can't comment on anything to do with this. But he says it, then he does anyway. But I do think that this sounds, pretty thorough in a good way. So, traveling by air. Must maintain at least 1/3 normal forward movement in order to remain airborne. However, devices such as flying carpets do not have this limitation. It doesn't say anything about them having to rest. I think that's something that's different. I think that in BX it says that if you're on a flying creature, then it has to rest every so often. All right, retainers. So retainers, whenever you're going to do a loyalty check, whenever you hire them, retainers are hired for a share of treasure, typically at least 15% of the employer's income plus support costs. Retainers are typically very loyal and willing to take reasonable risks. In particular, they are the only sort of hireling who will generally accompany a player character into a dungeon, lair, or ruin. Hiring retainers more involved than hiring other NPCs. First, the player character must advertise for a retainer. So this actually goes through the process that is described in the AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide, which I think is, that's more in depth because it's all like, it's going to take like a week, for all this time to go by and then be able to get people to be interested. And then that's just going to, determine who shows up. And then the people that show up, here's the whole process of giving them your pitch for how much you're going to pay them. And then, then you got to adjust things and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this does a great job of at least letting you know what things you should be considering. Because a lot of people just don't think about that stuff. They're like, yeah, sure, you hire people. I've done it. I'm not knocking it. I've done it before. I had it in my old school essentials game where, because we were just doing dungeon crawls, I would put a list of retainers and you just pick the ones you want to hire. And guess what? They go with you for a share. Where the hell is the section on hirelings? Mercenaries, retainers. Okay. Frequent drinking establishes paying to post notices of help wanted, recruited through negotiation. Okay, it's about the same. All right. Play out the interview with the player, and after all offers have been made, all questions asked, reaction rolls should be made. In addition, the game master may apply any adjustments he or she feels are appropriate, a bonus of +1 or for higher than average pay, or the offer of a magic item such as a sword +1, or a penalty if the player character offers poor terms. So you have your die roll that you make, and then you have a loyalty score that is generated, and it is rolled every time that you ask them to risk themselves at great degrees, and again at the end of every adventure. Wow, I can't talk. Oh man. Okay. A player character may hire at most 4 retainers adjusted by the character's charisma bonus or penalty. That is, I think, a little bit more direct than what you have in, or when I say direct, I mean easier to easier to pin down because I want to say that the chart's a little bit. So charisma. Yeah, you can get up to 10. No, 7. It's still 7. Okay, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same. Sometimes I'm talking out my ass, and I apologize. Yeah. Any attempts to hire more than this number of retainers will be met with automatic refusals. I like that. They just look at you. They, I don't know. They just have this magical ability to be able to tell how many people you have in your employment. And they're like, I don't think you can handle another one, buddy. Level of retainers. Normally, potential retainers will be 1/2 the level of the employer or less. So at a first level character cannot hire retainers. Oof. Second level PCs can only hire first level characters and so on. Of course, there is no way for the retainers to directly know the level of the PC employer, nor for the employer to know the level of the potential retainer. But the game master should usually enforce this rule for purposes of game balance. I don't know if I agree with that. It shouldn't be surprising that first level characters can't hire retainers as they have no reputation to speak of yet. That is true. That is true. You wouldn't be hiring a retainer. You'd be hiring a somebody to share in the loot. But then again, they would get a full share rather than this. What is it? 10%? Is that what they were saying before? Which is really generous. It doesn't look like you actually share. Okay, experience. Unlike other hired NPCs, retainers do gain experience just as other adventurers do. However, as they are under the command of a player character, only 1/2 of a share of XP is allocated to each retainer. So they get 1/2 of a share. So yeah, I would give them, if they can't qualify as a retainer because they're too whatever, then I would say that they just get a full share. There you go. All right, so you have all this stuff on specialists. That's a whole thing. But basically, you can hire people to do certain jobs. How in-depth is this? Well, let's look at the alchemist. 1,000 gold pieces per month. Hired for one of 2 reasons: to make potions or assist a magic user with magical research. An alchemist can produce a potion, given the required materials, a sample or written formula for the potion in the same time and for the same cost as a magic user. They may research new potions, but at twice the cost in time and materials as a magic user. Magic users seeking to create certain magic items may employ an alchemist as an assistant. In this case, the alchemist adds 15% to the magic user's chance of success. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, mercenaries. So that's that's kind of your stuff for if you're going to be handling mass combat. Because they do not go into a dungeon. They could be used to protect you in overland travel, perhaps. And honestly, it might be necessary. All right, we have experience points. Given for monsters defeated and for other challenges as the GM sees fit. I'm triggered. Give XP for gold and for monsters. And that's call it a day. Let's see how this stacks up. Because again, I have been trying to compare this to BX. Here we go. Monsters. Let's get a goblin. No, it's not a goblin. Let's do an orc. Orc. 1 hit die. 10 XP. 1 hit die. 25 XP. All right. Owlbear. 5 hit die. 175 XP. 5 hit die. 360 XP. All right. So it looks like basic fantasy gives you more XP for killing. I don't like it. So what you could do is you could give XP for gold and cut XP amounts for the monsters in half. And I think you'd end up right about in roughly the same territory. Let's see. Ogre is 4+1 hit die, 125 XP. So 4, 240. Yeah, cut it in half. I don't know. Let's see what y'all say about that. If y'all say anything. Ocean travel campaign seemed to be quite the challenge. Yeah, I don't think so. JP says, as far as game logic goes, minimum henchman level is hardly egregious. Minimum henchman level is hardly egregious. No, it's not. It's not very egregious at all. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. I don't have a problem. Romaine says that's a deal breaker without modifications. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the idea that basic fantasy, I gotta knock you on the lack of the fact that you give so much XP for killing, and it doesn't say anything about XP for gold that I can see. Let's see. I'm just gonna make sure before I declaratively say that. Non-combat challenges may be assigned a level or a flat XP value assigned as a GM wishes. If asked, it's nothing about gold. Amount should be divided by number of adventurers. No character may advance more than one level due to experience points from a single adventure. Based. I know that it upsets people, but I buy that. I'm in that camp. I used to not be, but then I then I got, I had a game where people got like 4 levels because they happened to kill a dragon and take its treasure, even though they're wildly outclassed. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It was pretty genius. I love their idea and everything. So yeah, there we go. Basic fantasy RPG. You lose some points because no XP for gold, the way that it's written, and too much XP for monsters. I say too much. Too much is objective. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say I don't like how much it gives, because it'd be one thing if the XP chart for leveling had increased as well, but it hasn't. So basically, this is just, well, you're not going to be getting XP from gold, so we're increasing the amount that you get from monsters, and I don't like that. I would prefer to just cut it in half. I'm going to check the math at the higher hit die. Let me see what's a high hit die creature. Purple worm, 15 hit die. 15 hit die, 2300 XP. 15 hit die, 2850. Is that? So it may even out once they get to the higher levels. I mean, BX is really low at first, and then it goes higher. Let's see something. Rock. 36 hit die. We don't have anything that high, do we? Well, it's just for the hell of it. 6,200. Well, look at that. 25 hit die is 9,000. Yeah. It's hard to really manage it, but yeah. So I would take some care into assigning XP value. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right. So encounter. So time shifts to combat rounds, 10 seconds long. Check for surprise using a D6. So that's standard. It basically tells you to adjust based on the situation, which is legit. We have reaction rolls. Just for curiosity's sake. 3 to 5, 3 to 7. Neutral is There is no neutral. Okay, so that's what they did here. Basic Fantasy took out neutral, which I'm not going to get mad at them about that. It's going to be more unfavorable in Basic Fantasy than it is in BX. We have 9 to 11 is indifferent or uninterested in basic in BX. 8 to 11 is favorable. So yeah, it's a little bit more decisive. I kind of like that. Coming up with an uncertain roll is kind of bullshit. Coming up with neutral's fair. I'm okay with neutral. But uncertain's just like, well, why am I rolling then? Favorable result simply means that the monsters will consider letting the player characters live if they choose to parlay. So that sounds like neutral. That really sounds like neutral. Doesn't necessarily mean that they like them. I wouldn't call that favorable. I think that that's kind of unclear. So maybe I'm going to have to knock them on that as well. I mean, I guess it's favorable if they don't want to kill you automatically. Interpreting the results of this roll is left to the GM. You know what I do? This is probably an admission of guilt that people are going to be like, not authentic, bad GM. I don't check the chart. I roll, and if it's high, then I'm like, okay, they're favorable. If it's low, I say they want to kill you. I don't worry about checking the chart. Call me a bad person. Initiative. All right. This is where we're getting into some serious meat here. So every round, 1d6 rolled for initiative for each character or monster. Adjusted by dexterity bonus. High numbers act first. Anybody with equal numbers act simultaneously. So we have simultaneous actions. This is something I really like. I don't think we have anything like that here. Because here we have the whole phase combat in BX. Combat, initiative, ties. Either both sides may roll again or actions on. Okay, so it can happen simultaneously. Individual initiative is an optional rule. Yeah, so they have movement, missile, spell casting, melee attacks. So otherwise known as movement, missile, magic, melee. So phase combat. Here, count down the initiative numbers. Each character or monster may act on their number. If desired, they may choose to wait until a later number to act. And, it's pretty neat. So if you have a weapon with a long reach, so this kind of has some AD&D flavor in it. If you have a weapon with a long reach, you can choose to attack a closing opponent on the closing opponent's number and thus attacking simultaneously with the opponent, even if the character rolled lower for initiative. So in AD&D, if you have a longer reach weapon and they're charging you, then you get to hit them before they hit you. In this, it says, well, no, like you hit each other at the same time. That's a neat little consolation, I think. Okay. So, and again, because of the way that the order of operations works in here, this and that work pretty similarly in that you can't attack and then move. You move and then attack. So once you've attacked, then you're not moving anymore. And I like this because this just shows that I fucked up whenever I was running BX, because I had I rolled a d6, and if it was just determining which side went first, and then after that, I was just like, oh, you get to attack and do your. I kind of 5E'd it, honestly. This was me being plagued with the remnants of me being a 5E originally player. I was basically like, oh yeah, you can move in, attack it, and move away. Sure. but not the case with this. So once you're within 5 feet of each other and you're engaged, must be abide by defensive movement below. So that's basically saying that they can get a free hit on you if you try to move away, but you don't do a withdrawing attack. So you can sprint, maneuverability. Following rules may be considered optional. Turning distance. Okay, yeah. How far they must move between facing changes when they are moving about in combat. That part's pretty silly, and I would throw it out. Just let them change entirely. Unless they're flying. So there's this whole so like if you're that's what whenever I saw this I was like, okay, that sounds like the flying rules. The whole idea is that if you're flying, then if you're changing direction, you can't change direction like immediately. You're going to do this whole thing, you can't just be like, boop, just doesn't work like that. But if you're standing, you can bet your ass you can just turn around. So climbing and diving. Yeah, I'm not. No. Okay. I mean, that's just more rules for if you're fighting underwater and stuff like that. Charging. So must move at least 10 feet. May move up to double normal movement. Movement must be in a more or less straight line. Yeah, it's stuff that we're used to. Must be using a weapon such as a spear, lance, or polearm, which is suitable for use while charging. That's a little different. I'm used to being able to charge with just about any weapon. It's the people that receive a charge that have a limitation on what they can use. Certain monsters, including those with horns, are able to use natural attacks when charging. If they do not have line of sight at the beginning of the charge, that opponent cannot be charged. Attack made is get a +2, -2 to armor class for the remainder of the round. If it hits, double damage. So that's also different. As far as I can recall, I don't remember like you being able to charge and hit them and get double damage unless you're using like a lance. So maybe that's what they were doing there. Is they're kind of combining the whole lance thing into if you were just lance on a horse basically. But they're saying nah, you can get that double damage anyway. Set weapon against charge. So that's normal. You can get double damage if you brace against them. For this to be done, the character or creature being charged must have equal or better initiative. This counts as holding an action. So if you lose the initiative, then you really can't do this. That I can kind of understand. It works. Evasion and pursuit. So you can throw some money. Again, this is kind of like if you're sprinting somewhere, if you're trying to run away, then have them do a saving throw versus death ray with dexterity bonus added to see if they can cut a turn quickly. That's an interesting rule. I'm not going to just throw it out. I think that's an interesting rule because there's the possibility that you can have this dramatic moment where you're running along, all of a sudden, I got to turn this way. Oh no, I slipped. They're catching up to me. They get a hit on me. I try to run away. They get another hit on me. Interesting stuff could happen. If at any point they're within 5 feet, they begin parting shots. Yeah. Okay. Anytime a character turns his or her back on an adjacent opponent who has a ready weapon and begins movement, they are allowed a parting shot with +2 bonus to attack. Even if that opponent has already made all attacks for the round, opponents with attack routines must choose one attack mode. Cool. Attack bonus table, the thing that everyone's been waiting for. So your okay. Less than 1 hit die, +0. Everybody at level 1 gets a +1. Fighters go theirs go up faster. They can go all the way up to a +10. It's about how you'd expect. I want to say that it's probably going to be relatively similar to the THAC0 increases. And it looks like it may be a little bit faster, because I think THAC0 is every other level, and this one's like 3 for 2. Every 3 levels you go up 2. Does that make sense? Maybe it's 3 for 5. I don't know. Fightail. Magic user. Halfling. Fighter. Yeah. It's every 3 levels. Every 3 levels you get 2. Wait, no. You don't get... It's not +2. Let's see. 14 is +9. 14 is +8. Oh, but 14 is maximum level. I forgot about that. Maybe that's what was throwing me off. Anywho. Okay. I don't think that BX had anything like this in it. This is something that I know that AD&D has. If somebody throws a missile and they miss, you know, they can roll here to find out. Old School Essentials Classic didn't have this. Let me clarify. Advanced does. A lot of these extra rules, whenever I say Old School Essentials doesn't have it, I'm actually typically talking about Classic fantasy. So because it, you know, that's BX. Advanced fantasy is them bringing in some stuff from AD&D. Rate of fire, missile weapon rate of fire. Light crossbow once every 2 rounds. Heavy crossbow once every 3 rounds. I do like the missiles that miss here. So this is different, because basically in BX and in AD&D, you randomly determine if you shoot into a melee, you randomly determine who actually is going to be potentially hit. You don't like, you're going to try to hit an enemy, sure, but like your chances are you're probably going to hit, unless the creature is bigger than everybody else, then you can just shoot the creature and you're fine. Well, even in AD&D it's not exactly that, but in BX it's that. But you use some kind of random determination, and then that determines who the actual target is, and then you roll against it to see if it hits them. With this, basically, you know, if you miss your target, then you roll against everybody else who is in the path to see if it hit them. And if it misses all of them, then it misses all of them. It's fine. I kind of like that, because, you know, you get to, oh, I missed you. Well, why did I miss you? Did I miss you because I hit somebody else between us? Then that's whenever I'm like, okay, well, I missed this guy. Well, I missed this guy. Well, I missed this guy. Oh, I just missed everybody. I must have shot completely over everybody. Otherwise, you know, I shot somebody in the ass or something. Melee attacks supply strength bonus. Attacks with bows or crossbows do not gain strength bonus. Okay. No bonus for dexterity. Nice. Dexterity does not deserve damage bonuses. Subduing damage, I like. -4 attack penalty, half damage. Beautiful. Simple, eloquent, nice. Character knocked out in this way but not subsequently killed will wake up with 1 hit point in 1d4 turns, or can be awakened with 1 hit point by someone else after 2d10 rounds. Yeah, I kind of like that being specified there, because, you know, somebody, you know, can't just be like, oh, I just knocked you out, let me throw some water on you. Oh, you're awake again. You know, it's just like, no, they are in coma mode for at least a few minutes, maybe. Well, not minutes. Rounds are short, so never mind. I've been in too much first edition mode. Brawling, 1d3 points of subduing damage with a punch, 1d4 with a kick, -2 to attack with a kick. Wrestling. A successful attack roll for a grab. Hold is maintained until the attacker releases it, and the defender makes a save versus Death Ray, which is attempted at the defender's next action according to initiative. They occupy the same space. This is a little bit different. Achieving a hold on it, they can automatically inflict unarmed damage as if striking with a fist, prevent a held opponent from speaking. I like that. It's a nice little rule there. You can tell that came up from play. Use simple magic items such as rings, or take any other action the GM allows. The attacker may also attempt to acquire an item the opponent is holding, or attempt to move the opponent. A held character may be voluntarily released whenever the attacker so desires. Attacker can't draw or use a weapon or use a wand, staff, scroll, or potion, escape another's wrestling attack, cast a spell, or pin another character while holding an opponent. So a lot of reasons that they may have to end up letting them go. If they want to move somebody while they're holding them, they can only move half speed with a successful attack roll. But they have to also be strong enough to carry or drag them. So like there's a lot of really good caveats here that, you know, I think that they kind of prevent you from having stupid stuff happen, which is nice. You can wrestle an item free from them with an additional attack roll, which if you try to grab something from somebody and you fail, then they get to try and pin you down, which is nice. It's kind of like, this is very fluid. I really like this wrestling system. It's simple, but there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens from it. It's a lot easier to work out than the first edition grappling rules. I've rolled an 87, which means that I broke your finger. I'm going to find that one person that loves the first edition grappling rules, and they're going to be like, how dare you? Let's see. Truant says, do people release homebrew modules for basic fantasy? Homebrew modules, I haven't seen them, but I haven't looked. I've had too many to read of official stuff for me to get into homebrew stuff, but I would imagine probably. But here's the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing is that, like, generally speaking, you know, conversion is dead ass simple. So any OSR thing is going to work. AC is just going to need to be flipped into ascending, which basically is going to be shoot. Give me a second. So if unarmored is 11, then it's going to be why is my brain pooping out like this? If unarmored is 11, and normally it's supposed to be 10. If for first edition, it would be 10. So it'd be, no, 20 minus, 21 minus whatever the AC is. And I can't, God dang. I can't do it right now. I can't do it. I know that it's going to be easy, but I can't do it like off the top of my head, like right now. I know if I sat down and I tried to figure it out when I'm not on the stream, I'd be able to figure it out. But shit, yeah. It wouldn't be hard. It wouldn't be hard if you actually took the time to do it. Because really, that's all you'd have to translate. Everything else is basically going to fit, you know. So why not just use other ones if there aren't any? There are many free modules on their website. Absolutely. Everything's free on there. Romaine says, I love simultaneous actions plus phases of action, range, melee, etc. Yeah, the phases are nice because they're very direct, easy to remember. Just remember your 4 M's and you're good to go. So it'd be very easy to just use that instead if you don't like using individual initiative for basic fantasy. It'd be very easy to do that. The only thing that would be affected is, again, all these situations where it says, well, if they were before you in initiative, then X or Y. Those are the situations that are going to get kind of screwed. Okay. Let's get back to it. Multiple opponents, up to 4 combatants can wrestle a single opponent of normal size in a given round. Creatures that are smaller than the attacker account for half. Note that after an opponent is pinned, other attackers may benefit from the -4 penalty applied to the defender. However, this AC penalty is not cumulative. Well, yeah, it's obvious. I say that's obvious. There's going to be somebody that's like, oh, they get a -12 now because 3 of us have them pinned down. No. Oh, God bless you, but no. It is also possible for another character to attack the attacker in an ongoing wrestling bout. In this case, a successful hold on the attacker grants the original defender. So there's some stuff here. It gets a little bit crazy, but at the same time, it's still better than what we had for first edition for sure. What did we have for grappling in BX? Because I never used it. I don't know if that's because it wasn't there or if it was because people just were too concerned about staying alive to be able to worry about grappling. Combat issues. Here we go. Other combat issues. Unarmed attacks. Subduing. Nope. Nope. No grappling. There you go. I think grappling rules are cool. Okay. Oil. Oh my God. Oil. Oil flasks are the bane of my existence. Anybody that played in my old school Essentials game knows that things got really fucky whenever we had games where people were buying tons and tons of oil, which of course is very easy to fix. They're not going to sell you all that oil, guys. They need some for their own uses, that kind of thing. But let's see what they do here. Assuming some means of igniting the oil is at hand, a direct hit to a creature deals 1d8 points of fire damage. Plus, in the next round, the target takes an additional 1d8 points of damage. So that sounds pretty similar, unless here they spend the round extinguishing. If the oil is ignited by some sort of wick or fuse, then all other creatures within the 5 feet of the point of impact receive 1d6 points of fire damage from the splash, which is more than you get from AD&D, because in that one it's like 1 to 3 points. A save versus death ray is allowed to avoid this damage. If the flask does not hit the intended target as described, then you may still take damage from the splash. Receives a saving throw. No saving throw is allowed for a creature which has received a direct hit. Flask of oil spilled or splattered on the ground will burn for 10 rounds. Okay. Those attempting to cross will receive 1d6 points of damage. All right. So the key thing to remember there is, and this is something that I screwed up with, so don't be like me, be better than me, is my stupid ass read the oil in BX and was like, okay, it's going to be a splash and it's going to do 1d8 per round to everybody in the area. So that was probably me screwing up. Let's see. Splash weapon. 2 rounds as it drips off. I know it says some oil flask burning 1d8 splash weapon. Yeah, it's because it doesn't really specify otherwise. It doesn't say anything about less damage on the splash. That's why I rolled it that way in BX. So this is a little bit better about that, perhaps, even though I still say 1d6 or 1d. Actually, I guess they don't take any damage if they make the save. Does it say half or 1d6. Yeah, they just avoid. So 1d6 or 0 if they're able to make their saving throw. So there's your difference there. All right, holy water. Grenade-like missile. Must be... Wait. The flask breaks if thrown against the body of a corporeal creature, but to use it against an incorporeal creature, it must be opened and poured out onto the target, generally requiring the attacker to be adjacent. Direct hit by a flask of water, holy water, deals 1d8. In addition, each creature within 5 feet of the point of impact receives... Okay, so it does splash damage too. Only effective for 1 round. Morale rules. We have morale rules. Yay. They are... as you would expect, 2d6. Okay. Checked when the monsters first encounter opposition. Interesting. So just whenever they first see you. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like that's what the reaction roll can handle, but that's okay. Again, when the monster party is reduced to half strength. Oh, okay. A lot of times I would do this maybe whenever the first one dies, but this is whenever they first encounter opposition. So it's almost this. It's similar. It's not going to happen like too far apart. Yeah. So I would probably do it after the first one dies. Again, when the monster party is reduced to half strength, by numbers if more than one monster, or by hit points if the monster is alone. For this purpose, monsters incapacitated by sleep, charm, or hold magic are counted as if dead. That's interesting. Sleep, definitely. Charm or hold magic, it makes sense. Charm lasts a long time. At least it does in BX. Actually, now I'm wanting to check how long it lasts in this. Hold magic lasts a pretty long time. So for all intents and purposes, I guess they may as well be dead. Yeah. Game Master may apply adjustments to a monster's morale score in some situations at his or her discretion. Should not total more than +2 or -2. Yeah. Because 2D or 2d6 does not give you enough leeway. Special rules apply to retainers. Yeah, we know that. Turning undead. So they roll a 1d20 instead of a 2d6. There you go. Big difference there. Players should always roll, even if the GM knows the character can't succeed, as telling the player whether or not to roll may reveal too much. Okay, let's see. I'm just curious how this compares. I haven't used Turning Undead that so much in BX that I can instantly recall how different that is. It's in the cleric section, I believe. Cleric. Dwarf. Cleric. Turning Undead. Okay. So it's all right. 1 hit die. 13. So that's a 50, 65. So 70% chance. 70% chance of 1 hit die at level 1 ish. And yeah, I don't know the probability percentages off of a 2d6 off the top of my head. So I can't do what I was going to intend to do. But basically, you're pretty dang likely in this, it looks like, to turn 1 hit die undead at level 1. Pretty dang likely. I said 75. It doesn't sound right. Let's see. So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Let's see. So that's 7, 35, 65% likely. I might be wrong. Anyway, let's look at the top end. You just get a flat out no for 4 hit die. Level 1, you get a flat out no on 3-hit die. So it looks like this is a little bit more generous. And Basic Fantasy looks like it's more generous. At second level in BX, you just flat out turn them. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's more nuanced than that because you don't just flat out turn single hit die until 8th level in Basic Fantasy, but at second level in BX, you're already just flat out turning without a roll. And at 4th level, you're destroying. And that's not until 11th level in Basic Fantasy. So there you go. Automatically affected, damaged, and possibly destroyed. No, I thought it was automatically destroyed. I didn't think it was pot damage. I thought it was automatically destroyed. So if the roll is success, 2d6 hit die of undead creatures, monsters are affected. Surplus hit die are lost. Minimum of 1 will always be affected if the first roll succeeds. If a mixed group of undead is to be turned, 2d6 hit die. What is this damage thing? Damaged. Where's this damaged? Oh, okay. So it's that's how many hit dice it affects. So you would just do that much in damage. Okay. All right, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that. You got leftover hit dice. It's not enough to kill them, but it can damage them. Okay. It hurts. The holy word hurts. I like it. Okay. Wow. We're getting all kinds of like Russian spam. When did that happen? Arnman says, my Basic Fantasy drive of PDFs has 21 adventures, 3 of which are anthologies. They exist. Well, yeah, so we know that much, that they do have all kinds of them. I got this one, they got all kinds of them. I don't have the third anthology. Well, I have the first and second one in print. Third one's not in print yet, but there are. I think somebody was asking about homebrew ones, and I can't remember who the authors were on a lot of these print official ones. Not aware of any grappling BX rules. Maybe in Beckme. Yeah, Rules Cyclopedia has wrestling rules. Moldvay didn't do it. Blaine says the morale check upon opposition suggested NPCs want foes that will roll over to their demand, assuming hostile, and may withdraw if faced with someone who's going to fight back. That's true. Which would fit for bandits and monsters that are opportunistic raiders. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm when you put it that way, I think I'm more apt to go with that idea. Yeah. Yeah, basically like you want, we want to fight. Okay, bye. We were just kidding. Yeah. Now that you put it that way, that does make more sense than, well, we're going to fight, but only until one of us dies. That's kind of stupid. So yeah, Blaine wins. K5K says, I retract my earlier statement that only fighters can strike the subdue. It was limited to dragons in first edition, but then expanded to other large creatures in Unearthed Arcana. Unearthed Arcana still doesn't exist in my brain yet. I haven't gotten there. 35% chance. So 35%, that was referring to the 13. So 35% chance of failure. I did say it was, that sounds right. 65% chance of success. Wait, 35. No, it'd be 65% chance of failure, 35% chance of success. Okay. So 35% chance of success at level 1 is actually pretty not nice, because on a 2d6 getting a 7 is I think like more often than not. I think it's like at least 50% of the time you're going to get that. So it's actually a little bit more generous. Interesting. That's what happens whenever you try to use a flat D20 versus a bell curve D6. Actually, it's not a bell curve. I think it's just a curve. I don't know. The example of play subdue. So yeah, that's a thing. Faux show. All right. This like Alex, we can't. Well, I say we. I can't. I don't know. I don't know what any of this means. I don't know who you're talking to. So, dang it. All right, let's go back to it. So I have about an hour before I need to like stop this, because then it's going to be the next stream for I'm not going to be on it, but inappropriate characters is going to start, and I don't want to impede. Okay, well, actually, no. Here it says undead monsters subject to damage D for damage result suffer 1d8 damage per level of the cleric. Roll once and apply the same damage to all undead monsters affected. Got you. Okay. So typically it's going to be at least 11d8. Dang. Yeah, that's going to kill most of them. Energy drain. I do like the way that they handle energy drain in this. It seems a little bit easier, because one of the things that I've always kind of quarreled with is that you're having to take away levels and then go through all the little tweaks and then add them back on later, assuming that you ever get to do your restoring or whatever. And it just seems like kind of a pain, unless you're recording like how many hit points did I have maximum at this level or in that level, and that level, and that level. It just seems like a total pain. So this is kind of nice. For each negative level a victim receives, he or she suffers a semi-permanent loss of 1 hit die worth of hit points, a penalty of -1 on all attack and saving throw rolls, and any other roll made on a 1d20, and net -5% to any percentile roll, such as thief abilities. I'm not sure that is going to work out perfectly with some of the thief abilities, because some of them have like very small incremental improvements once they get to certain levels. That's actually going to hit you harder, quite a bit harder, but maybe that's acceptable. In addition, an effective spellcaster loses access to one of his or her highest level spell slots. Victim may or may not be allowed a saving throw to resist the effect, depending on specific monster type. If the character's hit points are reduced to 0 or less by means of energy drain, the victim is immediately slain. If the energy drain is caused by an undead monster, the victim will usually be transformed in that sort of undead monster. Negative levels may be removed by magic, such as restoration spell. When a negative level is to be removed, divide the total number of hit points lost by the number of negative levels to determine how many hit points are restored. So that's simple. To me, that's a lot easier to handle than, actually changing the level. This is just less BS. I like it. Healing and rest. Maybe the players are going to like have a little bit less of they'd be a little bit less pissy about it whenever you're like, oh, you just have this penalty for a while. These are the penalties that you have until you get, then it's more like a condition rather than you just took away all of my work. How dare you? Why would you do this to me? I like this. I think this is very clever. Healing and rest. 1 hit point of damage every day. Choose the full bed rest, gain an additional hit point each evening. Constitution changes how much sleep you need to get a full night's rest, and you start getting penalties for not getting sleep. Easy. Constitution point losses. May regain them with normal rest. Rate of recovery is 1 point per day, awarded each morning when the character awakens. If a constitution loss results in a lower bonus or penalty, the character's maximum hit points must be reduced appropriately. Now, I'm honestly going through this a lot slower than I thought I was going to. This might be a multiple stream thing, which makes me sad, because I was planning on covering a whole bunch of this really fast. If a constitution loss results in a lower bonus to penalty, the character's maximum hit points must be reduced appropriately. So that answers that question. Sometimes people have to ask. For instance, a character reduced from 16 to 15, constitution goes +2 to +1, thus losing 1 hit point per die rolled. If a reduction in maximum hit points reduces that figure to less than the character's current hit points, reduce the current hit points to the new maximum hit point figure immediately. Falling damage 1d6 points per 10 point. Fractional distances are rounded to the nearest whole number so that a fall of 1 to 4 does no damage, 5 to 14 does 1d6, etc. Oswald would have died, just so y'all know that are playing in my first edition game. Oswald would have died. His 15-foot fall would have still killed him. Deafness and blindness. A deafened creature can only react to what it can see or feel. Surprised on a 1 to 3 on 1d6 and suffers a -1 penalty to its initiative rolls. They're surprised. A blinded creature is surprised on 1 to 4 on a 1d6, suffers a -4 penalty to its attack rolls, a -4 penalty to its armor class, and a -2 penalty to its initiative rolls. Those are kind of similar to the AD&D ones. These effects are modified when dealing with monsters having unusual sensory abilities. For example, bats may be affected by deafness as if blinded instead. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. These penalties are for characters or creatures recently handicapped. Those who are normally blind or deaf may have reduced penalties at the GM's option. So you can have a, what is his name? It's like Zatuichi or whatever, the blind swordsman. Note that the penalty for attacking an invisible opponent is the same as the penalty for attacking blind, that is -4 in the attack roll. I like that. One of the things that I thought was really weird in BX, let me pull it out. Spells. There we go. Light. All right. Blinding a creature by casting the spell upon its eyes. If the target fails a saving throw versus spells, it is blinded for the duration. A blind creature cannot attack. How stupid is that? I'm blind. I'm not going to swing wildly or anything. There's no way that I'm going to actually hurt you, but I'm blind. Yeah. That's something I always thought was pretty ridiculous. You guys may be able to tell me if there's like, I think if they're invisible, I think if you're invisible, it's like I think it's a -4 to hit somebody who's invisible. And people usually infer from that that means that if you can't see somebody, then you should consider them an invisible person that you're trying to hit. Let me see if that's accurate. Invisibility. No, it doesn't say anything about it there. And it's probably under the combat section. Other combat issues. Blindness, unable to attack. Yeah, it just says unable to attack, period. End of story. The end. It's stupid. That is one of the dumbest things. You should be ashamed of yourself, Moldvay. You should be ashamed. But back to what we're here for. For BX, it's not a problem. We'll just say that. It is not a problem for BX. They are awakened to the idea that, you should be able to still attack. You're probably going to miss, though. Attacking a vehicle. Armor class 11. They have hardness and hit point values. Roll damage against the vehicle, then reduce the damage by the hardness value. Any excess damage is applied to the vehicle. So they have a damage threshold, basically, if you're familiar with that concept, which I think it's fine. It works that way. You can't just dink it away with little dink, 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 with your little dagger. You can't just dagger stab a fucking cart into oblivion. No, you're going to need something more substantial, and you're going to need some good, solid swings. I like that. Repairing a vehicle. Who cares? Saving throws. All right. So we have the traditional spread. We got Death Ray or Poison, Magic Wands, Paralysis or Petrify, Dragon Breath, and Spells. In general, saving throw rolls are not adjusted by ability, score, bonus, or penalty figures. There are a few exceptions. Poison saving throws are always adjusted by the character's constitution modifier. Ooh. Saving throws against illusions are always adjusted by intelligence. Saving throws against charm spells are adjusted by the character's wisdom modifier. Nice. Item saving throws. Beautiful. So this is from it's similar, I'm sure, to what's in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Except what do you have to roll? Assume that items are unaffected if the creature character makes his or her saving throw. However, very fragile items may still be considered in case where more and more subject. Use a saving throw roll of the bearer to determine if it's damaged or not. Okay. So for those who don't know, if you're going to use this rule, which I recommend because this helps keep in check whenever you've got crazy magic items everywhere. Which I'm a firm believer that magic items should be quite present in Dungeons and Dragons. Let me find the page. It may actually take me a little bit to find the page, to be honest. Let's see. Saving throws. Magic armor and saving throws, 82. I don't think that's the one I'm looking for, though, because I was just there. 82. Oh, there it is. Okay. Page 80 of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Here you go. Oh, I'm going to try and make sure you can see it. Okay. I mean, it's tiny on the screen. I just realized that like you're only seeing a very, very, very small portion. But basically, depending on what kind of attack it is and what the thing is made out of, you get different saving throws, and if it's magic or not. And so, like a acid is going to do better against fucking parchment. I don't know if that's accurate. It's going to do better against parchment than it is against stone. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Crushing blow is going to do more against glass than it is against liquid. So there you go. There's your tip for the day. Just print out that little chart and you can use that if you want to, because to me it's kind of silly, like, well, you're just going to make your saving throw. You failed your saving throw, but now we're going to use your saving throw against these, even though we're actually checking for your items. And I think that's kind of stupid, personally. Either forget about it or use the first edition one instead. Let's see if I've upset anybody. Okay. Alex says, I am born to fly, and does he look at chat and then a lovely Russian piece of patriotic fervor? Now, I don't know if you're trolling me or if this is actually happening, if Alex is actually saying these beautiful things. Russia, our sacred state, Russia, our beloved country, mighty will, great glory, your property for all time, be glorified fatherland, our free friendship of peoples in the old age union. So now we know. So that's what he's saying. Wow. So we have this Russian hymn going on in the background, and I didn't even know it. Thank you, sir. Malaki says, Google Translate for the win. Oh yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, thank you, Alex, for for coming in here and sharing your love of Russia. I don't know much about Russia, so I'm a filthy Texan who just does not pay attention to any other countries, honestly, which is sadness. Okay, so saving throw tables by class. How does it stack? This is an interesting question because remember we have this thing where remember our demi-humans get pretty considerable bonuses to start with in this. So let's have a look. See. All right. Fighter. Death 12. Death 13. Okay, so harder. It's harder. Wait, no. 12. It's 12 because first level. I was looking at normal. All right, so 12. 12, 12. 13, 13. 14, 14. 15, 15. Spells 17 in BX. I mean, in basic fantasy. In 16 in BX. Interesting. 14th level. 14th level 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. 4, 5, 6, 5, 8. So it happens slower, but of course, BX ends at 14. So that only makes sense that it would slow down. Sort of. Yeah. Even then, it never gets as low as it does in there. Maybe that's because of the fact that you have +4s and things like that on dwarves. That basically means if you could be a level 20 dwarf fighter, then you would never, unless you had like a penalty to your roll, you would never fail on a death ray or poison save, because your minimum, like you'd have to roll a 1. Well, you could roll a 1 and still succeed. So you'd have to have a penalty. Okay. I was just curious. I was curious on how that stacked. I'm going to assume that since this was close with all of those, it's probably pretty similar with the other ones. But I guess if I already looked, I might as well look at the other ones. All right. So that was fighter. Cleric. Level 1, 11, 12, 14, 16, 15. 11, 12, 14, 16, 15. Exact same. Magic user. 13, 14, 13, 16, 15. 13, 14, 13, 16, 15. Yep. Thief. 13, 14, 13, 16, 15. 13, 14, 13, 16, 15. Mm-hmm. Okay. Monsters. So we have beasts of burden and monster descriptions. Okay. Any formatting differences? Okay, armor class, hit dice. Attacks per round. Saving throw values. So there's the thing. You're gonna need a fighter. You're just gonna have to refer to the saving throw chart for PCs. Looks like. It looks like it's mostly going to be fighters. Save as fighter, 1 to 4 as hit dice. Okay, it's same as hit die. Morale. What movement, right? Yeah, there's movement. Attack bonus is not included because that's determined by hit die. Number appearing. I do really like the number appearing. In basic fantasy, you'll see that it says for Basilisk 1d6, Wild 1d6, Lair 1d6. So that way you don't have this. I've got it in parentheses, so I'm gonna multiply it by this amount or whatever. To me, that's kind of obnoxious. I like that here. It's just like no, it's gonna Let's see some that actually change it, because there should be some that. All right, so like bear, you encounter one, it's just one. You encounter some in the wild, 1d4. You encounter some in the lair, 1d4. Bees, you could have 1 to 6, 1 to 6, or 5 to 30. Morale, treasure type, XP. So all that seems to be the same. I don't think there's really a whole lot of point in hashing out all this stuff again. They're just freaking monsters. Again, benefit, basic fantasy, in that you get all of these freaking things for free. And you know, there's a bunch of books. You got 3 monster books additional to this right here. This rather substantial collection. And that's nice. Good God, is it substantial? BX's is okay. It's okay. I don't have the exact numbers. You do get a lot more in basic Old School Essentials Advanced than you do in basic Old School Essentials Classic. I got basic fantasy on the brain. Hopefully there weren't any tatas there. If there were tatas, I apologize. Hide your kids, hide your wife. Well, how we doing? All right, well, let's just look at this. Let's just do a comparison. Let's do a skeleton. All right, number appearing 3d6. So 3 to 18 or 3 to 30. It's a pretty substantial difference. Armor class 13. I'm just wanting to see how they compare. Skeleton. White, Tyrannosaurus, Thule, Spider. Where's your dadgum? Oh, P comes after K, Aaron. Come on. Shark, Shrieker, Skeleton. All right, we made it. All right, armor class is 13 in basic fantasy. It is 12 if you're using ascending in Old School Essentials. But we've already noted that that's the same as leather. I want to say it's the same as wearing leather armor. Basically, that in basic fantasy, your ascending armor class is going to be 1 point higher in basic fantasy than it is in Old School Essentials Classic. Okay. Hit dice, same. 1 hit die. Weapon, or 1 attack. Thaco, 0 improvement. That should be about the same. 1d6 are by weapon. 1d6 are by weapon. Movement 40 feet. Movement 60 feet. Okay. So less movement. All right. Number appearing 3d4 or 3d10. 3d6 or 3d10. Save as fighter 1. Saves are 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's fighter. Yeah, fighter 1. Morale's 12. They're not running. Treasure none. XP 25. XP 10. Okay. They take only half damage from edged weapons and only a single point from arrows, bolts, or sling stones, plus any magical bonus. As with all undead, they can be turned by blah, 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 blah. What about damage? No note on damage. You're gonna have to give a little bit of extra kudos to basic fantasy for including the fact that, yeah, if you're trying to stab something that is just bones, you're probably not going to hurt it as much. Or if you try and slash them. So I do appreciate that. What's another good monster to check out? Let me see what the chat says. Let me see what y'all say. Okay. 60 foot is base movement rate, and counter movement rate is in parentheses 20. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's right. It's been a little while. So 20 feet versus 40. So actually they move more in basic fantasy. Cannot find any change to being blinded in Moldvay expert. Okay. Well, Malaki just put it up. Russia is real. So I've been told. Light in actual Moldvay basic seems to say that blinded cannot attack is only a basic rule, implying a change in expert. Oh, okay. Light in actual Moldvay basic seems to say that blinded cannot attack is only a basic rule, implying a change in expert. Okay, so that means that it was a carryover from Holmes, or it was only in Holmes. Cannot find any change to being blinded in Moldvay expert. So it sounds like it was a carryover, is what it sounds like. All right. Let's see. What's another one to compare? Spectre. How about a Spectre? Let's see what they did with Spectres. Back to, because I'm sure they have Spectres on here. Spectre. All right, here we go. 6-hit die. 6-hit die. AC 17. AC 17 with a little note. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Does that mean that they aren't harmed by... Huh. I'm gonna assume that they aren't harmed by something. I wish that they had the footnotes on every page that has the footnote indicator, because now in order for me to figure that out, I have to go back up. Grr. All right, what page is this? This is page 122. All right, I'm gonna figure it out. Do. That's a long way. It looks like it's going to say that silver, you need silver to hurt it or something. Or magic items, magic weapons. There we go. Monster descriptions. Okay. Some monsters are only able to be hit by damage by silver or magical weapons. These are indicated in words by the dagger. Some monsters may only be hit by magical weapons, double dagger. Okay, magical only. Got it. I was pretty sure that that's what it was, but I wanted to be sure. Okay, so we got that. So as far as actually, it looks like the Spectre is actually a little bit less. Armor class is actually down a little bit because normally they're one higher. So hit die is the same. Number of attacks, 1 touch, 1 touch. Energy drain, 2 levels per touch. 1d8 plus energy drain. So that's a difference there. Instead of, so you lose a 2 hit die of HP if you're drained, because you're drained 2 levels, which is ouch. Whereas with the BX, you lose HP and you also get a life drain. Wait, no, you lose two experience levels. Okay, it's the same both ways. This incurs a loss of 2 hit dice of hit points as well as all other benefits. Ouch! All right, BX is actually rougher. THACO 14 plus 5. I mean, we're just going by hit die, so I think that the Spectres can actually have, in BX, basic fantasy is going to be hitting more. Movement, 150 or 300 feet. 100 feet flying, 50 feet not flying. So it's just fly 100 feet. Why would a Spectre not be flying? Come on. 1d4, layer 1d8. 1d4, 1d8. Treasure type E. 610 XP. 725 XP. Like all undead, they may be turned by immune to sleep due to their incorporeal, they may not be harmed by it. So there is this note here in BX that I do like. It says, make no noise until they attack, immune to effects that affect living creatures, such as poison, immune to mind-altering or mind-reading spells, charm, hold, sleep. So, I mean, it's stuff that's obvious, but I have to give BX the edge there on that. Oh yeah, saves. I completely glossed over saves. Saves is fighter 6. This is fighter 6, basically. Or at least monster 6, which I think is fighter. Monster saving throws. Yeah. Let's see, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I was just curious. I was curious about how different they were. All right, I've only got 30 minutes left until I have to end the stream. Only 30 minutes, I say. Because we are marathoning this shit. All right, we've looked at monsters. Let's look at treasure. All right. So we do have treasure tables. And so we have lair treasures from A to O. We have individual treasures from P to, is it V? Yeah. Yeah. Let's see how this looks. Treasure types. Okay. Type A. Copper. 25% 1d6 times 1000. 50% 5d6 times 100. So more likely to get not less, not exactly. 5d6, that's 1 to 6,000 versus 5 to 600. No. 500 to 3,000. Okay. So it's just different. Lo and behold, it is just different. Looks like gems and jewelry is the same. Any 3 magic items, 30%. That's the same. B. Looks like subtle differences. Any 1d2. 10%, 2 magic items, 15%, any 1 to 2. Yeah, there's subtle differences. It looks like Basic Fantasy is designed to give you less gold. Maybe this is why. Well, not why. Maybe this is a symptom of the guy Chris Gonerman, whenever he made this, intending for players to not be getting gold for XP. Is you don't get as much gold in the game because you don't need it. You're really just getting gold for other stuff. Individual treasures. Let's see how that compares. Individual P to T. 3d8 copper. Bingo. 3d6 for Q. Yep. 2d4, 2d4. 26, 26. Group treasure UV. Yeah, it seems to just want to give you less. More frequent, but lower in numbers. Unguarded. What the hell's unguarded treasures? I got no fucking clue. I guess I'll just have to look at the section on that. All right, gems. I guess that was it miscellaneous items? It's not miscellaneous, no. Those are magic items. Treasure types. It's before treasure types, isn't it? No. Where the hell is gems? I can't remember. Maps. Scrolls. I think it's after that. Scrolls, maps. Swords, weapons, sentient swords, extraordinary power, sentient. Bitch. Okay. Gems. Gems and jewelry, 234. It's right before magic. I looked there, 234. Oh my God. All right. Let's see how their gems compare. So you roll a percentile instead of, so I'm going to have to adjust that accordingly. So that's basically on a D20, it'd be a 1 to 4, 1 to 4, 10 GP, 10 GP. Number found, 1 to 10. What is number found for? Okay, when gems are the base value and number found when they're indicated in a treasure hoard. Okay, so normally in here you already know how many there are. You're just okay. So that's what that's for. All right, so that's not an issue. 10, 50, 100, 500, 1,000, 5,000. There is no 5,000 on this one, but that's for jewelry. Jewelry is 3d6 times 100 or more. Yeah, so it's just variable. All right, let's see the percentages. There's a 5% chance for 1,000. That's right. 16 to 19. So that's a 20%. 20% for precious. Yeah, it looks like it's the same table. Oh, I do like the chart for determining types. That's kind of cool because, you know, I struggle on that sometimes. I'm like, oh, you find a bunch of jewels or whatever. What kind of jewels? Jewels. It's a problem that I have. It's not a problem that most people probably have, but yeah, I don't know jewelry very well. I don't know stones very well. But being able to say, yeah, you find a very fine looking amethyst or something like that, and being able to say that you find a gold bracelet with adorned with garnets, then I can write that down, put the value, and then whenever they get it appraised, then, you know, that kind of thing. Magic item generation. Okay. So We do have magic item generation here, but if you look here, there really isn't a whole lot of, there's really not a whole lot to it. Special abilities, you got 6 possibilities, one of which is pretty rough. Wishes, those are pretty rough. Special enemy. Now, are they going to happen often? No. Look at that. So special ability. There is a 10% chance that you're going to end up having a magic weapon with a special ability. Is that just swords? No, it's all of them. Okay. And if it ends up with a special ability. And then let's see, it's a 59 to 85. So it's a 25% chance. 25% chance that it's going to have a special enemy that it specifies. Ain't bad. 1% chance of a +5. Oof. This is not a bad magic item generator. The only thing that I'm going to complain about is that there's really just like, it's not a whole lot of other stuff. I mean, you got your basic potions, and these are, I don't think that this is really too out of line from what you get with BX. Let's look though, because my whole thing here is I'm comparing and contrasting, right? All right, potions. Clear audience, clairvoyance, control animal, control dragon, control giant, control human, control plant, control undead, delusion, diminution, ESP, fire resistance, flying, gaseous form, giant strength, growth, healing, heroism, invisibility, invulnerability, levitation, longevity, poison, polymorph self, speed, treasure finding. 100% the same. 100%. All right. So no change. Scrolls. Wait, I've already got rings up. Rings up next. Okay. Control animal, control humans, control plant, delusion, Jenny summoning, fire resistance, invisibility, protect +1, 5-foot radius. It doesn't specify radius in there, but I'm sure it does in the thing. Okay, there's a difference. BX has only protection +1. Wait, yeah, protection +1, 5-foot radius, and then it goes to protection +1. Oh, derp. Okay, so BX does not have protection +2 or protection +3. There you go. That's what the thing was there. Regeneration, spell storing, spell turning, telekinesis, water walking, weakness, wishes, X-ray. So basically the same. So far, I really don't have a solid reason to bitch. Rods, staves, and wands. What about scrolls? Scrolls before? Potions. I love the art in this thing. I think scrolls are later. Let's go ahead and go to rods. Rods and staffs and wands. Okay. Cancellation. Staff of commanding. No staff of commanding? There's staff of commanding. So what do I have that's extra here? Snake staff. Staff of snakes. Okay. So no change. Staff of healing. Staff of power. Staff of striking. Staff of wizardry. What is it? Staff of withering. Withering. There is no staff of withering in basic fantasy. Wand of cold, enemy detection, fear, fireballs, illusion, lightning bolts, magic detection, metal detection, paralyzation, negation. Okay. BX has negation. Basic fantasy does not. Polymorph, secret door detection, and trap detection. All right. Scrolls and maps. Okay, we get to go back up to scrolls. All right. So it just gives you spells, and then there's a percentage of if it's a cleric spell versus if it's a magic user spell. So the generation method is different. One in 4 scrolls contain divine spells, the rest contain arcane spells. How does that translate? 10 to 15, 1 to so you're more likely to get magic. Yeah, that's right. Same. All right, curse scroll, protection from elementals, protection from lycanthropes, magic, protection from magic, protection from undead, treasure map. Map to treasure type. Okay, so it breaks it down directly into treasure type on basic fantasy. That's kind of nice. Whereas here we have treasure maps that have very specific treasure. 1 magic item, 2 magic items, etc. Map to 1d4 magic items. Okay. So yeah. What else we got? Swords. Okay. We don't have any section on swords because that's not in here. The whole thing about sentient swords is not in here. That's in a supplement. So if you're interested in that, you're going to have to visit the supplement. Miscellaneous magic items. Let's see how that stacks up. Miscellaneous. Okay. Amulet of proof against scrying. Detection and location, same thing. Devouring, holding, boots of levitation, speed, traveling and leaping, flying, broom of flying. Okay, so we have a bowl commanding. I think it's different name. Yeah. Well. Yeah, it is a different name. Bowl commanding water elementals, brazier. Brazier? I did say it right. For some reason, I almost always say brazier, and then people have to laugh at me for pronouncing it that way. Commanding water and fire elementals. Here you have elemental summoning device, air, earth, fire, and water. Cloak of displacement. Displacer cloak. Crystal ball. Crystal ball. Crystal ball with clairaudience. Crystal ball with clairaudience. Crystal ball with ESP. Okay, looks like they win that one. Drums of panic. Drums of panic. Fruity bottle. Fruity bottle. Elven cloak and boots. Elven cloak or elven boots. You get them together. Interesting. You get them together in BX. You get them separate in basic fantasy. Flying carpet. Flying carpet. Gauntlets of ogre power. Gauntlets of girdle of giant strength. Helm of an alignment changing. Oh, no helm of alignment changing. I wouldn't miss it, honestly. Helm of alignment changing sucks, especially if you're a paladin. Oh man, you just don't want to put on any helmets unless you go through thorough identification first. Get every sage you know to look at it. Helm of reading languages and magic. Okay, we did keep that. Telepathy, teleportation, blasting. Helm of Doom, Horn of Doom. Horn of Doom. We don't have a Horn of Doom. Medallion of ESP. Mirror of life trapping. Realm of climbing. Scarab of protection. Stone commanding earth elementals. So BX, you have elemental summoning devices In basic fantasy, you have elemental control stuff, commanding. For the most part, it's mostly the same. So really, the only thing I can knock basic fantasy on when it comes to magic items is really just the sentient swords. That's really the only thing I can knock them on, because all this stuff is otherwise pretty much the same. All right. Dungeon encounters. That's basically, I think that's basically the same. Let's have a look. Encounters. Nope. Wrong chart. Nope. So BX gets the nod when it comes to sentient swords. Okay, dungeon encounter tables. Dungeon encounter by level 1 to 3. Level 1, giant B. This is entirely different. You only get 12 options on basic fantasy. You get 20 on BX. Eight plus. Basic fantasy wins. No, basic BX wins. My bias shows. No. Wilderness encounters. Okay. So you got chart and subchart. Is that about the same? So it looks like you rolled 2d8. Yeah, 2d8. Versus 1d8. Okay, so you have a curve there, rather than having multiple entries. This is kind of a trick there, because here, yeah, you roll a d8, and then you have subtables, but you may have a dragon down twice, humanoid down twice. In the city, you have human down 6 times. So, and then once you break it down, you only have like 12 different things. So, wilderness encounters here is actually a little bit quicker, because you have a bell curve. I don't know if it's a bell curve or just a curve. But so you're more likely to hit somewhere in the middle and encounter, for instance, in the desert, you're more likely to encounter, I guess that would be like NPC parties, something like that. Spider, like giant tarantulas. That'd be kind of weird. But then rare on the rare ends, you might encounter a dragon if you get 2 8s or 2 1s. I don't know. That's something that, looking at it, I can't tell right off the bat how much more I like it or hate it. But I do like the idea that I don't have to bother going to a sub chart, because otherwise, like for instance, I'm gonna Barren Hills Mountains. Okay, I'm gonna roll d8. Okay, I got human. So now I go to my human chart. Human. What is my human chart? Admittedly, both of these are kind of a non-issue, because you can just decide to use they have tools that you can use to roll this stuff up automatically. It's pretty nice. Okay. Here we go. All right. So I guess it is kind of better in some ways. So the human, if I come up with where was I doing that? I got confused. All right. So yeah, whenever I come up with human on Barren Hills Mountains, human, it could be bandit, berserker, brigand, experienced adventurers, a high-level cleric, high-level, basically, merchant, Neanderthal. Instead, there, it's going to be, yeah, it's a little bit more specific. BX, I got to give the nod, even though I do have to check a few more things. It's a little bit quicker on basic fantasy, but BX is, I think, more accurate. City, town, or village encounters. Oh shit, I only got 10 minutes. Only got 10 minutes left until the I guess I'm going to do supplementary materials on another stream because we're almost done with basic fantasy here. All right. Which is a shame because I really wanted to get into that stuff. But I can either do, well, I won't do it tonight. I'll probably do it Tuesday night because I don't have anything going on Tuesday night as far as I know. So I'll probably stream the rest of this Tuesday night. To city, village, city, town, or village encounters. Let's see what that does. Humanoid, undead. City, human. Okay, so we have it in day or night with basic fantasy, and that's kind of neat. It looks like it just puts the more shady stuff at night for the most part. And then you have the lycanthropy and the were-rat and the doppelganger on your most infrequent, like 1% chance encounters. And yeah. All right. I do like this further stipulation on what these city encounters are going to be like. That's cool. Creating an NPC party. We have some guidance there. Dealing with players. Okay. We're going to try and run through this kind of quickly. Character creation, you can indulge them with point swapping, -2 to one score to add +1 to another. This is the standard BX rule as far as I know, or at least it's in Old School Essentials Classic. So that's all I can say. I don't own a Moldvay BX, unfortunately, but I just know that most of this is about the same. Let the player exchange any, so that's another option. Let them exchange any 2 ability scores once per character, or just let them move it however they want. Hopeless characters, if it sucks ass, then let them redo. Acquisition of spells. So clerics just get to choose out of all the spell levels that they have available to them. May begin begin play knowing 2 spells room. However, gaining the ability to cast these spells does not necessarily mean the magic user instantly learns new spells. Being taught by another magic user or by studying another magic user's spellbook, if being taught, can be learned in a single day. Damn. Researching another spellbook takes 1 day per spell level. In either case, the spell learned must be transcribed for 500 GP per spell level transcribed. Add a new spell of any level he or she may cast at any point. However, the spells of higher levels may not be learned or added to the spellbook until they invent the right spell. Must find a teacher or acquire reference work in order to learn new spells, and the cost of such is in addition to the costs given above. Often a magic user will maintain the relationship with his or her original master, who will teach the character new spells either for free or in return for services. Sometimes 2 magic users will agree to exchange known spells. In many cases, the only option available to magic user would be to pay another magic user anywhere from 100 to 1,000 GP per spell level in return to such training. All right, weapon armor restriction. You can penalize them for using a prohibited weapon. Clerics, that is. -5 to attack penalty when using prohibited weapon. That's the same thing as in AD&D, using one that you're not proficient in, which is fine. Actually, I like that rule a lot. Thieves wearing heavier armor, more restrictive and or noisier than leather armor, prevents the use of any thief skills. including sneak attack. Thieves may choose to wear, but only makes them a poor excuse for a fighter. Yes, that is the absolute greatness. Dwarves and halflings, these characters are prohibited from using large weapons, mainly due to their small stature and relatively low weight. It's hard to swing a weapon when the weapon is trying to swing you. Such a character tries to use, they get a -5 to attack penalty. That's fine. Judging wishes, don't care. Death and dying. Raise dead may be doable, but I really like this right here. If they don't have enough money to afford to be raised by an NPC, then they may basically use speak with dead to get them to agree to do something in return, and then raise them and have them do some kind of special task, which I like. I think that that's really cool. The whole game of, like adventurers die, roll up a new one is great and everything, but I also don't hate on the idea that people are going to play games where characters might not be dying left and right forever, and you might just not ditch them all the time. Both games can exist in the same universe and both be cool, basically. All right, save versus death. When you get to 0, so reduced to 0 hit points is save versus death rate to avoid death. If it's failed, they are immediately dead. If it is made, they remain alive for 2d10 rounds. If the character's wounds are bound within the time frame, the death is averted. They remain unconscious for the full 2d10 rounds, either dying if left untreated or awakening if their wounds are bound. It doesn't say anything about like if you're reduced below 0. Actually, okay, yeah, because that's a different option. But so I would basically say that what happens if they hit you while you're down? Doesn't say anything about that. Any spellcaster reduced to subsequently survives. Loses all remaining prepared spells. Ouch. Magical healing will restore the character to whatever totals. Okay. Non-magical healing will require full recap to restore the first hit point. After this, healing proceeds at the normal rate. So there's a pretty, it's like this is more kind than death at 0. And it basically makes it where you're more likely to survive the higher level you get, which I think is interesting. Some people may hate that, but to me, if you're downed, then people should be able to just finish you while you're down because they can't defend themselves. And yeah. So it's not too generous in my opinion. Instead of negative hit points, they can die at -10. That's the old AD&D treatment that a lot of people use. Save or die poison. Where save or die poison is indicated, the victim must save or suffer 1d6 damage per round for 6 rounds. That's not a bad rule. Okay, here we go. Awarding experience points for treasure gained. I don't know how I missed this. GM may require treasure to be spent on training in order to make it count for experience. Beautiful. Okay. Chris Gonerman, you have redeemed yourself. Ability rolls. Okay. Is it equal to or under? No, it's based on level. Roll d20, add ability bonus for the score. Consult the following table. If it's equal to or higher than the target number, then it's a success. So they're more likely to succeed the higher level they get. I don't like it. I hate to be one of those people, but I'm not big on it. Preparing spells from memory. Oh, I only have 1 minute. Okay. We have rules for research. This stuff is pretty solid. Cursed. Creating a dungeon adventure. I'll admit I haven't really read that part. Same thing with designing a wilderness. Call me terrible. We do have stuff about building strongholds, so at least that is there. And that's it. That is basic fantasy role-playing games. So in the next one, we're going to go through a lot of this supplementary free stuff that you can get for free. And that way you can really boost the game. We do have a lot of comments. I'm going to go through comments before I close the stream, because y'all deserve it. Let's see. Old Vay BX, blind equals no attack. Have checked basic and expert. All spells have the same wording about a blinded creature may not attack. Thank you for checking on that. Times 100, that's 10 times less treasure. Yeah, it is. If you don't have gold for XP, I would rather use something that's medieval authentic. There are a lot of great medieval authentic products. Couldn't find anything about expert and expert either. Many people are obsessed with authentic economics in their games. It makes them do strange things. That's true. Malaki rules cyclopedia concerning blindness: -4 to save, -6 to attacks, +4 to AC. That's legit. I'm 100% down. I don't know. -6 to attacks. Rules cyclopedia. I feel like that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. Unguarded treasures, just treasure lying without a guard. It's possible to generate that in BX2. It is very possible. Look at designing a dungeon for unguarded treasure, I think. Okay. Malaki says, player, what kind of jewels? Me, the DM. Pretty ones. Eric says, so you're saying you're not a football fan? No, I'm not. I don't hate it, but I don't watch it. Malaki says alignment is optional in basic fantasy role-playing game. There is a supplement about alignment. Yeah, you're right. There is no mention of alignment other than some items that say detection of evil or whatever. So too many damn dragons and BX encounter charts. There's not enough. It's just that, you know, they're the same dragons in each region. Once you've killed one, then, you know, maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe there's no more dragon in that region until another one moves in. I mean, they're still present, but it looks like they're less likely due to pyramid curve dice. I thought the loss of prepared spells on going down was normal. I mean, normally you die. Normally you die when you go down. So I don't know that. I'd have to look it up. You know, so I know in BX whenever you hit 0, you're dead. And AD&D, you could potentially bleed out if you landed on 0 HP. You could potentially bleed out, but I don't know what happens to your spells if you're kept alive. Anyway, it's 2 after inappropriate characters has started, so that means I'm gonna have to close the stream. Thank y'all for hanging out, and like I said, I'm probably gonna do the rest of the basic fantasy stuff on another day. Hope you enjoyed this, and that one's probably gonna be, I don't know, a lot more enthralling because I'm not just going over the rule book. I'm going over all of this supplementary stuff that you may not have seen before or gone through. So y'all take it easy. Thanks for hanging out and have a wonderful football Sunday. I don't watch football.